there's like a little latency. You know, it always happens.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm easy.
and
Technical, always technical things.
yeah, man, it's the life of PC, right? And here we
Yeah.
go. And I think we are just live. So what's up, chat? Are we live, chat? They usually let me know. I get once I see the reactions, I kind of gauge the latency, of the show. Um, but we're live. Looks like we're live. Looks like we're doing good. Right? Let me see the reactions from the chat. Let's go. Oh yeah, there we go. The Ruham. Yep. No, you're not live yet. Liar, lass.
Wow.
We are live. Oh, what's going on? Merry Christmas to everybody. I know belated Merry Christmas. I don't know what you call it. I don't know what you say after Christmas, but for those of you who I didn't get a chance to say Merry Christmas to, I'm saying it now. We're about to approach Happy New Year and stuff like that. I'm glad you guys were able to rock it out, come through. I hope you enjoyed the show. What better way to end off the year with TimDog? You got the super Xbox fan, the super PlayStation fan in one podcast, just one on one, just chopping it up. Two old dudes that seen consoles throughout the years, right? And see how it
Yeah.
progressed, and we're just gonna have a good conversation, stuff like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Thank you so much for rocking out with us. I'm glad you took the time to come through. If you can do me a favor, if you can like the content right now and also share it out and get more people, to the channel. Obviously, we'll be open for questions as well. And but we're gonna have a great show, man. We're gonna have a really good conversation, stuff like that. But without further ado, my brother Tim Dog, what is going on, my brother? How are you doing?
Good, good. Merry Christmas to you, your family. Belated Merry Christmas. We said it already yesterday. We were talking,
Yeah,
but to
yep.
everyone in the chat, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. It's a time of year where it's about family and being good to each other and your neighbor. And just had a really good day yesterday. I'm very happy. Off today. Tomorrow I got work, but the grind starts January 2nd, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So, if this is always a good time of year, just like you just kind of look back and it's nice to, start up a new year, hope new goals, new, the whole deal, but just hope everyone got what they wanted. And most of all, hope everyone has their health, for the people that don't, just time of year that, you can recognize them, maybe help them out too, whatever the case is. I know I have a friend Rambo. You can see on my page. Just take a look at it. He's kind of a great guy and kind of fallen. Got cancer, and we used to fight all the
Yeah, I
time.
remember Rambo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So just check it out and just Merry Christmas to all.
All right, man. Thank you very much. Same sentiments, man. I hope everybody had a great Christmas with time and friends and family. Hope it was safe. I hope you listened to me and didn't drive drunk. All right, don't do that. But I'm glad you guys are here. I'm glad we're gonna have a great show. I think this is gonna be a great show, great conversation to end off the year, and it's also the halfway point now. Now we're officially, for the most part, halfway into the gen. So I think
Yeah,
a little bit of reflection and a little bit of anticipation of what might happen over the next 4 years. I think that's going to be a good thing. But to kick it off, of course, we got J Dub to kick it off with the super chat. He says, "Happy holidays, brothers. Have a great show. 100." Man, thank you, J Dub.
yay,
We're gonna try to make this a great show to end off 2024, and then of course Donnell Brown. He just gotta talk shit. He says, Yankees suck, Mets suck, Dodgers rule. He just gotta
yeah.
rub it in. You know
He's
who
he's a
really?
good dude.
Yeah, he is a good dude. But I'm gonna tell you one thing, Donnell. Your Raiders are a bunch of idiots. How you win a game? You got a tank, baby. Thank you for allowing the Giants to have the number one pick so far.
and
Oh man, and then also go Knicks. That's what I'm talking about.
oh yeah,
Oh yeah, I'm happy. I haven't
oh
felt like
yeah,
this since the '90s. Having a big that can score, we haven't had that
yeah,
since Ewing. The '90s are back.
yeah. Last
This is.
yesterday was great
Oh
watching the
yeah,
game.
oh yeah. Oh, it was awesome. It's great, man. We're
Yeah.
having a great season. Mm. So and all right, man. So let's kick it off, right? So like I said before we started, I want to ask you about your journey with Xbox, and what I mean by that is you're like one of the few people I seen that goes from a fan of a product, right? And now you built a reputation or connections with the makers of that brand, but you did it without actually having a brand yourself. And what I mean by a brand yourself is you didn't create a YouTube channel, you didn't create a website, you didn't work for IGN or GameSpot, right? Those are normal. Those guys, like the
Mm,
Paris and other people, they have podcasts, they
right.
work for IGN. So yeah, they're gonna get in connections with Sony and Microsoft. You didn't do that. You just did it out of being a pure fan of the product. So can you just walk us through real quick? Because I always
Yeah.
wondered, where did you go from the guy who bought the Xbox at Toys R Us to now you're sitting down having brunch with Phil Spencer and Aaron Greenberg? Like how did that journey happen?
Well, I was
Without the
a beta.
IGNs, without the IGNs and the
Yeah.
GameSpot
No,
and
you're
industry
right.
connection, you
I
you
don't think
literally
there's
said,
any.
yeah.
I don't
Go
think
ahead.
there's anybody that came the way I came about it because usually someone would have a YouTube or they'd have something where they were getting social media attention and then they gravitated. But my story really is that I was a beta tester. I was a big gamer when back I game still now, but I definitely gamed a lot more back then. So I was a beta tester, always a big devoted fan, and then I used to argue about Xbox on the forums in like 2007
System Wars
and
and GameSpot.
yes, exactly. I was
What was it?
huge on them.
What was that?
Every
Those days? The
System
lemmings,
Wars.
the
Yeah,
cows,
lemmings, the sheep,
sheep,
the lemmings and cows. That's how like we're OG.
and PCs were the
But
hermits.
it used to be that social media you would get like you would post something it would take days because there was nobody on it. But System Wars was one of those things where it was kind of like Twitter. You would post something and immediately you would have somebody interacting. So yeah, I was on that, and then basically what happened was is that. I was actually running a football team. I still was gaming, but I was kind of out of the social. It was like 2012 and 2013. I remember there was a forum called NeoGaf,
I
and there was
remember
a
them.
lot of stuff that was really being said that wasn't untrue, and there was a lot of bullshit that was going on. It was getting passed off as like really happening, but it wasn't. So, and this was in defense of Xbox. So I actually went on Twitter, and when I say I really went on Twitter with that, I went in with the idea of I'll never see these people, so I can say what the fuck I want. And I was really fucking like I was funny, but I would just really like I would say anything.
You were brutal. I
And
remember those days.
yeah,
I don't think people realize the old Tim. It was bad.
yeah, yeah. Now I'm a lot nicer, but I had a lot more testosterone back then. But
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I would say things that Xbox and the people at Xbox would always tell me this, that I would say things that they wanted to say but they can't because they're obviously run by a corporation. And some of the things, like, I had really good takes and the arguments, but I would say things. So it was all from Twitter. From Aaron Greenberg was the first to follow me, and then it just like Pinello and all these guys
So
really, Ikudo
so they
and
followed you
Phil.
like out of the blue.
Yeah, out of
They
the
just
blue, they followed me. And then Phil actually blocked me. And this is a funny story because I was so fucking crazy. And then Kevin Alex, actually talked to Phil and said, listen, I know the guy personally. He's a good guy. So Phil then unblocked me. And then I was much more courteous on the tweets. And then he actually followed me. And then I got invited to Xbox Fan Fest.
that was the first one.
Yeah,
When was that?
yeah, so 2015, I was selected to talk to Satya Nadella, and inside Microsoft or Xbox, that was like a big thing. Like people were against it. They're like, "Why are you sending this guy?" But at that time, I kind of knew. I knew the situation or the gravity of the
Oh
situation,
wow.
and yeah, I didn't take. I was a gentleman. But I really I kind of solidified myself there, and then I met Phil, and then I had dinners with these guys every year. Aaron would come out, and we went to the Giant game. Now I never posted this stuff
Hmm.
because, people would get either they would have some say to it, and I didn't really care because it was just my personal business. But like I went to the Giants game with Aaron, I picked him up in the city, and like I actually became,
That's
yeah, I
awesome.
actually became
That
pretty
is
cool. I still
awesome.
Yeah, I talked to Mike Nichols. I've talked
Oh,
to Finello. Still to this day, I talk to some of the people that have left. Major Nelson. I mean, it was really crazy because, and I definitely did carve myself a niche within the executive. They would all talk about people like me and like Hitman, and there was other people in rest in peace, Xbox Addict.
mm,
Like we had people that they really took to it, and they were much more. Right now, they're back to corporate. Corporate. They don't talk and think, but they were really interactive with the fans.
they were
Like
more
Phil
open.
used to
They
be
go there,
take
yeah.
all these questions, and he was much more forthright than he was. And actually, it was I used to always compliment them because they were so really good at that. But that all changed, I think, in the last couple of years, especially with ABK. I knew a stark difference in the way they were acting once the ABK, I guess shit gets real on their end. And then, obviously what happened this year. But yeah, I mean, people don't realize how deep I was. I mean, I remember talking about FanFest security with their people or having like Zooms to talk about like ABK and what they should do. They would come to me for a lot, and I got myself like a pretty good position. Now, most people, they probably would toe the line, like they said, and then not say anything. But to be honest, like I told you, I was an Xbox fan, a loyal, devout Xbox fan until I can't because they
Mm,
just doing stuff that was not the way what I come to love, doing the direct opposite of what they said they were about and stuff like
mm,
that. Things that they said they just completely went against, and then just acting cagey
mm,
and not becoming forthright. They really turned me off. Well, at least certain people did in certain parts of the organization, just the the way they were, the way they were going about the console, and we'll get into all that stuff. But
mm,
yeah, I was deep in there. People like joked around, but I would get messages every Friday. Phil, come in the game. We're playing Diablo. Do you have one? And I would always try to make time for that. But it was at the point where sometimes I would even tell Phil, I'm taking him sleep. I'm going to work tomorrow. You know what I mean?
because he
Like
plays.
it, yeah, he plays.
That
He
dude
does.
plays.
He
You
plays
know.
at a certain time, and it was he's very regimented.
Hmm.
So I always knew the time. But I would come on. He would send me a message. Like Phil was really cool in that matter. It's just unfortunate that things went the way they did because it was definitely something that was like sacrificed because of
Hmm.
the stance I took. They just
Hmm.
couldn't support it. They
Hmm.
even though it was my opinion.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's one thing of Phil. The one thing about Phil, I guess it was about a year ago, whatever. They blew up his town in Fallout
Yeah.
76. So then he
Yeah.
started doing the mission to get his own nuke. I'm like, oh shit, he
Yes.
took this personal. I'm like, I
That
found
was
that funny.
cool.
I found that funny. I'm like, he plays his games, So I know there's a passion
Yeah.
for that, right? And that must be pretty hard to have a passion, but at the same time, it's your job, and you have a
Conflicting.
obligation to the company. That
Yeah.
must be a really hard balance. So you said 2015 is when they pulled you in, right? So I know you were big on during the 360
2015.
era, 360 era,
Right.
right? Um, so obviously Microsoft stumbled a bit, or they stumbled a lot 2013 on how you know.
Yeah.
I mean, some people started calling it the third gen curse. It seems like
Yes.
any maker who has a third gen, for whatever reason, they do something monumentally stupid. So right, I remember that was like the
True.
thing. PS3 was the third gen curse, N64 was the third gen
Yeah.
curse. Now, Xbox One was the third gen curse. So that was like a funny little thing that we had in the community, the third gen curse, right? So 2013, like, and that was primary Dom Matrick, right? He initiated that
Yeah.
nonsense, right? Because he wanted to totally, instead of like building on what um his former
His phone.
predecessor, uh who was it? The one that went to EA. Oh my god,
Peter,
I forgot his name.
Peter Moore.
Peter Moore. Instead of building on what Peter Moore did and making it bigger, he really doubled down on Project Natal or whatever.
Yeah, he
And,
doubled down on
like too
Natal.
much. He went too hard on that,
Yeah.
right? Because he had a
Yes, he
totally
did.
different vision
And
of
so did I
Xbox.
at the time. I have to
Yeah,
say,
I
I
remember because
mean,
that was your name, Project Natal for life.
yeah, I mean, I did think it was a logical move. but it was quite clear. The one thing about it is that I'm not tone deaf to the fault, and I think
Yeah,
Microsoft has this problem. If people are telling you something's wrong, there's probably something wrong. So when
yeah,
somebody said, when you saw remember the Ollie North, or that
yeah,
guy North, he said that thing and they fired him.
yeah.
But you saw the writing on the wall.
Mhm.
And what pissed me off about that is that Matrick is that they walked right into it, and they still have made those same mistakes.
Yeah,
I kind of feel, especially this year, they see a problem and they see that people don't like it. Don't, just because you had a plan and you had millions of meetings saying this is the way to go, say, oh, we're going to go do that same mistake. You know what? You did kind of like what Sony did. They were flexible. They said, you know what? Look, we're going to now double down. We're going to go against DRM. We're going to have that commercial. And guess what? That commercial is going to be forever. That
yeah.
was a strategic masterclass move by Sony.
Mhm.
And I remember watching that E3, Puertorock.
2013
Bro,
was wild.
I watched the Xbox one, then I watched the Sony one.
Yeah.
And when there was a couple of points when the crowd went nuts, I mean, 3 minutes of cheering, I was like, this is fucking a huge deal. Like they got it.
Mhm.
Because Xbox and them were really fierce competitors at that
Mhm.
time.
Yeah,
Xbox had a
360,
really good,
PS3,
yeah,
they did it. They did their
neck
part
and neck,
to
yeah.
compete. You know.
Yeah, they were close, and that was the start of, I guess, the overall downfall and where they are now. I mean, there's been so many moves since, and they could have went different routes, but yeah, they're at this point, I kind of feel like they are in a worse position than even coming into the market. That's how bad
Mhm.
they are.
Mhm.
Believe it or not,
Well,
on the hardware side at least.
yeah. Let me do these super chats real quick. We got Donald Brown said the Raiders are stupid. That win was dumb. That's a sports show conversation, but you were right. And then
Yeah.
Disaster, well, with the first super chat. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, and Disaster is a member. Welcome to the channel. Hope you enjoyed the show with TimDog and stuff like that. Right? Really appreciate it. And everybody, please hit the like button. Thank you all so much for rocking out on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. Right? So yeah. So with that, right, with the Xbox One. I know everybody had, I think we moved on from that, but I will say this: the
Mhm.
whole Xbox One. I know you have the fanboys and the serious conversation, but from a serious perspective, when the consoles launched, when the PS4 and Xbox One launched, I didn't buy a PS4 at launch. I didn't buy a PS4 to 2015. I didn't have a next generation console for like a year and a half. I didn't buy the Xbox One or the PS4. I didn't buy it till Bloodborne came out. I felt
Right.
the overall launch, just in general, was very underwhelming. Right? It
Yeah.
was very underwhelming. I was like,
Well,
man,
you've
you
always
want,
been like that. Like
yeah,
even pro, you were like, no, I'm waiting
yeah.
because I don't
People,
want,
yeah. People think I just buy anything. Sony, like I didn't buy the Vita. I didn't buy the PS4 Pro. I didn't buy the PS4
Yeah.
till 2015, right? Because to me, every generation is establishing a new contract. What are you selling me, and do I like it?
Yes.
Like even Nintendo, I don't permanently hate Nintendo forever. It's just the last three things they done: the Wii, the Wii U, and the Switch. I just didn't real feel for it. I'm
Yeah.
not feeling it. But
It
that
did.
doesn't
Yeah.
mean,
Exactly.
yeah, but that doesn't mean I'm not looking out to see what the Switch 2 does. If the Switch 2 is something more that I like, I'm getting it. So every console is a generation to generation new contract. It's not a loyalty thing for me. What are you gonna
No.
do for me for this generation gaming, and are you gonna do it? I'll buy it, and then I'm good with that, right? When Microsoft did the whole Project Natal, I
Yeah.
knew that wasn't gonna work because they were trying to do, in my opinion, they were trying to do the same thing Sony was trying to do. They tried to move away from being a dedicated gaming platform to a multimedia platform that can do a
Yeah.
lot of entertainment stuff. And I'm like, that shit don't work. When a
TV.
person wants to
TV.
buy,
TV.
yeah, but Sony tried to do it too with the PS3. When you think about it, what was the
Mm-hmm.
major thing they talked about the PS3? It was Blu-ray,
Blu-ray.
and
Yeah.
nobody had HD TVs.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were still on our 4080p.
Yeah.
We nobody had HD TVs, and yet your number one selling point is 1080p Blu-rays, movies.
Yeah.
Like that don't make sense. We're talking. We want to know about games. Oh, Blu-rays. I remember I seeing advertisements like clips and articles. But it was from Europe. It said, "Hey, brand new Blu-ray player that also plays games." And I'm like,
Hmm.
and that was from Sony. I'm like, wow. So they put the gaming as like a nice feature. Like the main feature
Yeah.
is the Blu-ray. The gaming is like,
Yeah.
oh, you can also do this. You can also enjoy some games if you want to. Like this is called the PlayStation, and I'm like, wow. So when I saw that, I'm like, I'm glad Sony halfway they completely changed it. Right? They changed their
Hmm.
mindset. They went back to core gaming. When I saw the Xbox thing, and the first thing they talked about TV, I'm like, did you not see what
Oh,
Sony did? Sony
yeah.
tried to do the same thing and it flopped. Why are you guys doing this? You know, gaming is the core device, and then when I saw it, I'm like, this is gonna be bad. And they had it in the
Yeah.
bag. Like they just
Yeah.
follow Peter Moore's blueprint. Buy third party,
100%.
create banging first party, right? And maintain that momentum.
That's
Just keep
what.
buying all the third party.
100%.
Yeah, that's all you had to do.
100%. I
Just
remember
keep
they had that
yeah.
awful, awful conference, and me as a fan, I kind of, I was, I did believe what Xbox said, and I did believe they could do special things, like
Mm-hmm,
when they talked about the cloud 10 times.
mm-hmm,
Part of me was like really intrigued by that.
mm-hmm.
And I was intrigued by like the Connect too. I thought like when they had Matrix, like I thought I'd be up on the TV waving and fucking, snapping my fingers
Doing your
and
breakdancing.
everyone would be like, "Holy shit!" But
Yeah.
no, the reality, I was going Xbox, screaming at it. Xbox. Half the time it didn't work. It would load something, and yeah,
Oh.
it was a complete disaster.
Mhm.
I remember thinking Cortana was going to be revolutionary,
Yeah.
and I kind of through the years realized that I did myself kind of believe in them a little bit too much, thinking that some of the things that they sold I would believe, but and that's a part of the thing that I think we'll talk about a little bit later is that they say a lot of things. So it's like if they say they're making consoles, no more do they get the benefit of the doubt
Yeah.
because they say a lot of things and they do the opposite, or it doesn't come the way as advertised, like Crackdown 3. I mean,
Yeah.
that was a disaster. That was a
But
joke. That was,
that was yeah. But to you, I kind of understand why. And here's the thing, and I'm glad we could do this, right? Because a lot of people I see on Twitter, they'll say to you, like the people who follow you for years, now they don't want you to talk about Xbox. When the reality is,
yeah,
the reason why they followed you is because you talked about Xbox. But
yeah,
I don't think people understand that in your case. I understand why it's personal. I
yeah,
understand because you literally created personal relationships with these people. So it's not
yes,
like me and Sony. I don't know any of these guys, so I don't really give a damn, right? But you broke bread with these guys. Like you said, you went to a
yeah.
Giants game with Aaron Greenberg. You had brunch with Phil Spencer. You were on a
Still,
first
yeah,
name basis. So you would think just on the personal relationship, they would be honest to you. Even if they just told you, hey
right.
Tim, you can't say this
Yeah,
publicly, but I'm gonna let you know we're moving away from the console business.
I
And
just,
this is just
yes, 100%.
on
But
Twitter, on Twitter we're gonna play
yeah,
word salad because we're corporate. But I'm letting you
right.
know, Tim, right now, because we known you for years, we hung out. We have no choice. This is the, and then you probably would have been like, all right, I get it.
Yeah, I wouldn't have said anything, but I
Yeah,
guess I can understand the other argument that they're never going to tell somebody that. But my main thing was, if you're going to do something like that, you have to acknowledge what you said in the past. At least with what pissed me off is that they were. What really pissed me off, and Phil included, is that, like you said, on a stage where Game Pass exists, don't do something that flies in the face of that and not acknowledge what you say. If you guys were straightforward and you would just say that, basically this is where we're at and we're going to have to do this and it's just part of the company, it's part of our investments, but we're going to give you a first class experience with Game Pass. I kind of could really understand where they were coming from. I wouldn't have liked it, but for them just to not acknowledge what they said, and to hear them always talk about product truth and stuff like that, they say like gaining back the trust of the consumer. Like you threw that all out the window when you
right.
started the four games, and just how that went with the way they leaked it, to who they leaked it to. Just like I just realized that they're really more dysfunctional than you could imagine. Like for $1 trillion company, they're very still to this day very dysfunctional.
Yeah, they could have handled it better. Like they didn't have to say we're only supporting platforms where Game Pass exists. They didn't have to say
Yeah,
that. You
they
know what I'm
didn't have
saying?
to.
They didn't have to make definitive statements. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
You know, they could have just made the claim and say, "Hey, we're just gonna make sure, you know, wherever you play Game Pass or our games, you're gonna enjoy, you're gonna have a great experience." You know, but I know there was a lot of pressure from gamers trying to tell Microsoft, "Hey, are these games exclusives? Are they exclusive?" And they could have just, you know, Heismaned it, not answer it, you
Yeah.
know, because to me, not answering the question is better than answering the question that's not true. Because they, you know, like you said,
Hmm.
they said, "Hey, wherever Game Pass is, that's where our games go." But now Game Pass doesn't exist on Nintendo or PlayStation, but it's
Yep.
going there, right? And I think and some people they try to give you flack or give me flack or give gamers that say that's messed up. What they don't understand is when a corporation says, "Hey, this is what we're doing. You know, if you want to play our games, it has to be on a platform where Game Pass exists." There are gamers that's like, "Man, so what do I do, man? You got Bethesda, you got ABK. If I get a PlayStation, chances are I won't be able to play Bethesda games anymore,
Hmm.
ABK." So now it becomes a choice, right? Do I prefer PlayStation exclusives or do I prefer Xbox exclusives, but Xbox now including Bethesda and ABK? Because there was Xbox exclusives before the acquisition,
Yeah.
and now, you know, acquiring Bethesda and ABK is huge. That's a lot of IPs, some big games you got. So
Hmm.
now that changes the whole landscape of the exclusive conversation. Some gamers stuck with PlayStation, right? Because they like the Naughty Dog, they want the Spider-Man,
Right.
but in their mind, they sacrificed Bethesda and ABK. That was the sacrifice. Other people
Right.
went the opposite direction. They want Bethesda. They can't sacrifice. Yeah, they can't sacrifice Elder Scrolls or Fallout. They can't sacrifice a potential new IP from ABK. Maybe World of
Hmm.
Warcraft might come to console. They're not willing to sacrifice that. So you know what? I'm sacrificing God of War. I'm sacrificing Wolverine. Sacrificing Gran Turismo. All these games that they might enjoy. Now, of course, the answer is just buy both. But we both know that we're older. Not everybody's in the position to dedicate
Right.
two platforms. It's expensive. Playing on two platforms is
Yeah.
expensive. A lot of people don't realize that.
Right.
It's not cheap.
You
It's
got to
not
choose
cheap.
one, really.
Yeah,
If
most
you're
people
like
choose
if
one.
you're middle income, you got to choose one.
Yeah, and then
I
just
mean,
put
it's
all your
cool
money
to
in
have
that
both.
one to truly enjoy it, right?
Right.
So I get that, right? I'm not. That's why I don't be like, oh, you gotta own everything. Not everybody's in the
Yeah.
position to own everything, right? So some people sacrifice and say, you know what, I'm gonna go with Xbox, and I'm gonna forego the PlayStation exclusives because gotta make a choice. But now you go
Right.
2 years later, the people who chose PlayStation, they ended up winning. They're like, oh
Yeah.
snap, I really didn't sacrifice Bethesda games or
Hmm.
ABK games. While the Xbox guys are like, holy shit, if I would have chose PlayStation, I would have been good. This is
Yeah.
bullshit.
And then,
And I
especially in what I
understand that.
was arguing, and you were arguing. I mean, you were the first. I have to give you your flowers. You were the first to say they were doing this, and I was like, "Fuck!" I was like, "That motherfucker, Rockies."
You thought I
Yeah,
was fanboying. I'm like, man.
yeah, I know. I
I'm
kind of
like,
knew that you were. I, to be honest, I kind of had a secret because I knew, like, I was kind of like, especially when Tim Stewart made those things. I
yeah.
was just like, 'cause me and you used to, we were always good friends, but we would
Yes.
just argue
We would
and
just
we would
talk
go
shit, yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
But I was like, motherfucker, this guy's gonna be right. You know what I mean? Like, and they're gonna do this fucking shit. So you did. I give you your flowers, and
Hmm.
you know what? You were critical too of Sony. I mean, I
Hmm.
remember you saying the we don't live generations. You were like really like went in. So
Yeah.
I, you are a fan of
Hmm.
PlayStation, but you're not. You will go after them.
Hmm.
Sometimes people say you get shit from fanboys
But those
saying
never
calm
trend though.
down.
Like
You know,
the criticisms I have of PlayStation, believe it or not, those are the lowest trending
yeah,
points. Like no, that's why nobody knows the season. When I get the opposite. Like if I say something critical of PlayStation, I they try to shut it down. So it really
yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
trend. My videos don't
yeah,
trend. Like it's there, but you see like the
yeah.
views, they don't get retweeted. So nobody really knows some of the criticism. It just
Yeah. No,
that's just how the
I,
is.
I've
That's just how the world
I've
is.
always been following you,
Yeah.
and you're consistent. You know what you're talking about,
Mhm.
and you're definitely somebody. When you argument, you come there, and you're well educated about that. But one of the things that I was talking about in February, which was, it's just like you were right. People were choosing, but you're basically making the choice going forward for everyone to
Mhm.
choose PlayStation because Now we kind of know everything is coming, Halo's coming, and people will
Mm-hmm.
still say no, but it is. I mean, Jez kind of confirmed it. He said the only reason why it wouldn't would be for like a developmental problem
Mm-hmm.
or something in the system, like say
Yeah.
Forza 4 and Forza Tech Engine. That
Mm-hmm.
might be really tough to port over.
Because it
But like
wasn't really designed for PlayStation.
right, it was
Yeah.
designed for
PC,
exactly for
Xbox to the yeah.
exactly DirectX 12.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, something like Unreal Engine 5 games, like they're gonna fly right over, like Hellblade. I'm sure you're gonna see Hellblade. You're gonna
Yeah.
see Starfield. Those stuff are coming. But that was the thing that was killing me. Is it's like once you decide this, yeah, I get it in the short term, but you're now killing your console, and we're going to talk about that. The console, like at this point, is pretty much dead. I mean, I don't know how you can make it. There's no compelling arguments outside of a miracle for them. They are not. Sony is got Sony in next generation. I think is going to have like a 90% share. Right now, they have approaching 80 or 75. They're going to just freaking take everything because you know what? They're the place where all the games are coming. There are games on Xbox that you don't get that are
Mm-hmm.
going on PlayStation, but that's not the case. Obviously, for PlayStation, you get everything.
Yeah. And there's the gamers in the community that are really disingenuous, right? Because when you make that point, they instantly want to bring up, oh, but PlayStation's putting the games on PC. And we're
Yeah,
trying to
I
be like,
know.
we understand that, but we're talking about the consumer market that are console gamers. PlayStation putting
Yes,
their games on PC doesn't mean anything to a console gamer. Like it's irrelevant to them. They
one
don't got
hundred
PC.
percent.
What they're interested in is if I buy this console, what am I missing out? Or if I choose this console, what am I missing out? And the reality
Right.
is, going forward, if you choose the Xbox console, you will more than likely miss out on more games than if you were to choose the PlayStation console. Really, an Xbox console is primarily for Game Pass. If you're a fan of Game Pass,
Mhm.
that's the console to go for. But that's it. Don't talk about exclusives. Don't complain about
Right.
Sony's money hat and third party. Don't worry about that.
Which is
Just
going to
worry about
happen
Game
more
Pass.
often.
Yeah.
I got news for you. They're going to lock down the Chinese market,
Oh
and
yes.
you know what? The Xbox is positioned because they're not selling consoles. Guess what? Third party is going to be like, "Pfft, I'm just still developing for PC, which they're even saying is an Xbox. So guess what? There's going to be more and more games that don't come to the Xbox platform. That's what these people who are being disingenuous are really throwing themselves in front of the fire because they're basically hurting themselves. It's like my friend. I think he posted on it. Fred. He's like, "Oh, Timmy was never, a real Xbox fan. This and that." That's bullshit, man. I see what's gonna happen, and not for nothing. And you've been very good at predicting this. We've been 100% right so far.
Yes.
So now we're gonna get the benefit of the doubt. And I'm telling you right now, the Chinese market, you might not even get Wukong. Wukong is
Still,
the game of the year. I'm still trying to kill the tiger. I'm level 74. Game is amazing.
yo, how
That you
crazy?
might never. Yeah,
Yeah, how crazy that PlayStation got the Pro patch to Wukong, and the game at its basic level still is not on Xbox.
a hundred
They
percent. So
they
that
worked on
tells
the
you a
Pro
lot.
patch, and the game's still
That's
not
gonna
on
happen.
Xbox.
And then there's that really cool game that they just showed. It's another Chinese developer. And I got news for you. They make kick-ass games. What they did with freaking Wukong, the amount of stuff that's in there, and how big that game is, and the size of the fucking studio. I got news for you. They're gonna fucking transcend, and they're gonna be the trendsetter in game development. Chinese, that area, forget it. There's a lot of games, and guess what? I don't think they're coming to Xbox unless they make a deal or something because it just doesn't pay. So another thing. You lose out on your console, you lose out on hardware, you lose out on share, you lose out on just basically even being considered.
Mm-hmm.
So how the fuck are you going to tell me I'm not an Xbox fan when that's the road you're going down?
Mm-hmm.
Every fucking cool game is good. PlayStation had 3 Game of the Year award winners this year, which was supposed to be the year of Xbox, and Xbox had zero. And they got another game of the award a year winner. So
Yeah.
that stuff matters. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just like if you can't see the writing on the wall right now, I don't know what to tell you. Just at this point, I feel like a guy like Boom, like I like Boom, but he's being disingenuous.
Hmm.
This year in June, he was saying that PlayStation 5 was not selling and Xbox was still selling out. Like, bro, like, come on. Like,
I'm,
you're being
so
disingenuous.
I'm gonna be like, I see that, and I get, there's a fine line between trying to be a content creator and you're trying to appease your audience. I get that. Because I would
Mm,
imagine, you got people who listen, things things are going bad, whatever, and they want to go to a content creator just to enjoy stuff, right? They don't want to hear
right.
negativity, but don't preach lies, because a lie is never comforting. It's just not.
Yeah.
You just
And
can't.
blatantly,
You just can't.
like,
You
let's
can't.
like
Yeah, that doesn't help.
blatantly lie.
Yeah, because if it doesn't come true, you actually created a worse scenario, right? You don't have to
Yeah.
bash Xbox. You just have to let people know the reality of Xbox, which is, so that way people could be better informed and stuff like that. Like right now, and you're
Mhm.
seeing it, right? Just as you mentioned, this OEM Xbox or Xbox
Oh, God.
2026, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel? Like this is how I look at it, right? If you, I'll use the PlayStation side first, right? PlayStation side, right? We're halfway into the gen. PlayStation gamers are looking forward to the next 4 years, right? We all think that the next 4 years are just going to be banging between Sony's first party and third party is going to end off ridiculous. PlayStation has the PS5 Pro. The community is split. I would say more people in the community don't feel the Pro's worth it. I think it's a niche product. There's only a few of us
Hmm.
that feels it's worth it, right? But the
Yeah.
reason why that's happening, in my opinion, is because the base PS5 is a good console. When you create a good
100%.
console, yeah, when you create a good console from the get go, it is really hard to convince somebody that you created something better in the same gen. It's very challenging. Like if you if
Yes.
like if the PlayStation
But
4, I mean 5 was created terribly, and then you released a Pro, then people would be like, "Oh, good, I could get away from this." But the PS5 base is pretty good. So PlayStation gamers, majority are like, "Nah, I'm good with the PS5." They
yeah.
are happy. They're looking forward to the games. But when you look on the Xbox side, they got the Series X, Series S, but most of them are talking about a new console in 2026. Are you that unhappy with your console that
Yeah,
you're
I know.
hoping that you get something new in about 2 years?
How about this year? Like, I think the OEMs are coming this year, at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So
And
you're
some
gonna
so let's
have,
say, yeah, let's say that's the case, right? You have
which I
gamers
think
already
it
hyping
is.
that. So you're telling
Yeah.
me you're so unhappy with your Series X that you're ready to buy
Yep.
this new OEM
Bingo.
Xbox this year. So that means your Xbox console really only had a 4 year shelf life. That's not
And
good.
I got news for you. These fucking Lenovo and Samsung
They're
and
PCs.
Dell, whatever the fuck these PC makers, ASOS, um, guess what? Yeah, you might be able to boot into Steam and you might be able to boot into Xbox, but if you think you're coming close to what like Sony's offering and losing money, you those things are going to be very expensive. They're not going to
Yes.
be competitively priced. So you're going to be paying I think 100%
A markup.
over what yeah, a markup.
Yeah.
So you got that, and then you also got the idea of you're fucking watered down in your whole entire hardware where there's going to be stuff to choose. And yeah, some people might buy something like that, but do you think that you're going to get like mass people? It's just going to be, a certain amount of people that are buying it. You're not going to be getting the share that you need to be considered to be like made for Xbox, like games like that. So again, I think it's like they're on a mission to make consoles as irrelevant as they can be, but they are, but only for themselves.
Hmm.
Because people are like, oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I can play here. No, it does fucking matter. I've been a console gamer since Atari.
Yeah.
I like consoles, and I like consoles that have a brand and that are about what they're about the system and like the way Sony and Xbox was, you know what I mean? Like
Even
I don't want to buy
Nintendo. That's what's
something from
crazy.
fucking
Like no one
yeah, I don't want
bashes
to buy
Nintendo.
something from
Yeah.
Fisher Price,
Yeah.
like a Fisher Price Xbox. Like fuck you, like no, it's like So I just think that I think it's coming this year. You'll learn about it, and
Hmm.
I don't think it's going to be met with a lot of hype. I feel like they're just further eroding their diminishing share. I just think that they're just making Sony more and more attractive each and every day,
Mm.
and it's been going on since February.
Yeah. To go
And
through the chat.
the numbers are proving that. So
Absolutely. We got Syphy says shilling for Xbox at this point is like shilling for EA or Ubisoft, and you know what? It's coming to that, right? Because like
yes,
we actually lived seeing Sega transition from a first party console provider to third party, right? And now you got the newer generation of gamers. Some of them don't realize Sega and Nintendo were competitors. They
Mhm.
don't know Sega in that light because they when they started gaming, Sega was making games for Nintendo, so they didn't see Sega as a we did. We saw the console war.
My
Hell, that was
favorite
probably the
console.
biggest. Genesis and Super NES. That was probably the biggest console war. Sega used to go in. Remember, Genesis does what
Yeah,
Nintendo don't. Oh man, that was like console warring at its height, right? There's a lot of gamers that don't know that that existed. They don't see Sega as a
yeah,
once competitor, and I said that's gonna eventually happen to Xbox. The newer generation of gamers over the next course of a couple of gens, they're not gonna see Xbox as a brand that competed with PlayStation, that had the online better than PlayStation, innovated this.
right.
They just gonna see Xbox as yeah, they make
There
games,
you go. They're
and that's
becoming
it.
more and more irrelevant.
Like
So
Sega, you
basically,
know,
well,
you
yeah,
know,
exactly. You're
and
just
I'm not saying
becoming
Sega's irrelevant. They just
right.
changed. They just
Right,
changed.
or irrelevant in the console space,
Yeah,
or
in the
what we're
console space.
or what
Yeah.
what we're talking about. It just becomes like, yeah, I get. It's like who really talks about an EA only fan, like or
Mm-hmm.
EA
Nobody does that.
fanboy.
Yeah.
Nobody does that.
There's no Capcom
The
fanboys.
thing about the
This
people like to say their system's the best,
yeah.
their console's the best, and that's what Xbox. Listen, people are like that, regardless of all the bullshit that you hear. Just be a gamer. Most people play something, they buy something, and they consider that their go-to.
Mm-hmm.
They're behind it. I've seen
Yeah.
it a million times with
Everybody's like that.
everyone
Even
has their
even with
preference.
PC. PC gamers are the
Yeah,
same way. They're not
yeah,
leaving that
it's true.
platform. They just love PC for a different reason, but that is their
Right,
still preferred box.
right. And you know
Nintendo
what?
gamers,
It's
they have a
just
preferred box.
you're becoming
Everybody has a preferred
soulless.
box.
So that's what I feel like is Xbox is becoming soulless, and I said that fucking I know I say that over and over, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like February. Really, I had all these conversations, and many people were really against me. I lost 5,000 followers, and people were like, I'm doing it for clout, which I'm not. You know what I mean? I'm just doing it because of, like you said, I came onto the scene. I never made money. I never made any kind of money ever in this. I just did it because that's what my passion was about.
Mm-hmm.
And when it came to that point, this what they're going down I just feel it's going to be more and more negative news. It's going to be hard for these Xbox shilling creators to keep doing what they're doing. They're just going to either have to be, they're just there's going to come a time where it's just like it's nobody's paying attention. I don't know because it's just there's not much positivity going for Xbox console, and even they're just their overall image. More and more you see um, people switching over to PlayStation. I mean, everyone, me, and you go back. Look at all the guys that are in our group chat. Everyone at one time it was more Xbox guys than the PlayStation guys, and this is our like dedicated group chat that we're all in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Guess what? The whole entire room right now is PlayStation
Yeah,
guys.
yeah, pretty
You
much,
know?
right? Let me do some more super chats. We got True Witty says it's sad, but Microsoft is even a console space. It is sad, right? Everybody thinks that
Yeah.
because I talk shit about Microsoft, right? I I said this multiple times. One of my favorite consoles of all time was the OG Xbox. And that's the lowest selling, right? It's not like I like it because it sold 100 million. It only sold like 25 million. But man, that was such a great console. The OG Xbox, absolutely amazing console, right? 360 was a great console. I know that was a lot of shit talking between PS3 360, but 360 came out, with a bang. That was an amazing console.
Yes.
Yeah, God, those two back-to-back generations, I got it. Xbox, you could say OG Xbox was niche. It was starting. It was getting its foot in the door. but it did great, man. To me that was
Had
like
a
the
lot of
Dreamcast.
hype,
I called it
positivity.
the Dreamcast too because it felt like the Dreamcast. I was like, man, this feels
Yeah,
like Sega in every
and
way.
even at that time, you could see there was so many positive comments
The
and so many, it
online,
was like just people really loved those
yeah.
systems. And now, I mean, obviously social media wasn't like it was back then,
Mm-hmm.
but now, I mean, you just see so much negativity.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of permeates around the brand. So, like I said in the beginning of the show, I think they're in a worse position on the hardware front. They are in a worse position than they've ever been. Yeah, they're doing good as a third party. They're going to eventually be the number one third party developer and publisher.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as console, I don't even. They might make another console. This handheld, I think, is a very bad idea, just because of the competition.
I say the
Um,
same for PlayStation. I'm kind of reserved.
yeah,
I'm not
PlayStation's
buying it
on.
because
Yeah,
I'm not into handhelds myself. But like, I don't know,
they're not
PlayStation into
being
handheld.
Nintendo.
And everybody keeps talking like, oh, the handheld market's huge. I'm like, me looking at the handheld market, the only one that's actually selling is Switch.
And
Because
they're gonna get a lot.
Even Steam Deck, right, which is like the biggest
Mhm.
out of all of them.
That's great, great.
I try to look for information, and right now, the analysts are saying it's around 4 to 5 million in 2 years. That's not a lot, Tim. A
No, I
global
know.
a device that sell all around the world, and in 2 years you get five. Imagine if the Switch only sold 5 million in 2 years. That would be a flop.
100%.
Nobody would consider that a successful
You
device.
know,
Imagine
I don't even. Go ahead.
I don't see handheld gaming being that big other than phones and Switch
I
and
agree.
tablets.
I think
To
it's
me,
getting
that's a niche
overhyped.
market. It's a niche
Yeah,
market.
and they
AAA
always
handheld,
follow trends.
yeah,
The thing is, you look at they always follow trends. Whether it was
yeah.
even the Connect and what Sony had, they had their own thing. Sometimes the new trend is that they did well with PS5 Portal. It sold more than they expected, so I think that there's positivity there. But now this is the new trend. But I think you realistically look at it. Switch has it on lock. Steam Deck is probably second. Then I think Sony will have a good product, but it's not going to sell and then I think Microsoft is going to be competing with all of that again. Now, I don't think it's going to hit where everyone like they think it's going to be this big hit. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
And then I think if they don't do well with that, then like you've got some real serious questions. Like they've gone so far south in sales with um Europe, and they're getting sold 9-1, or like
Mm-hmm.
8-1.
Mm-hmm.
Like they pulled all another example in 2017. Yeah, he was getting a lot of pressure at the beginning of the year from Masterson or whatever his name was. Meyerson was
Mm-hmm.
his boss basically, and Meyerson was like, "Yo, you have a money pit. You need to lose money. You need to cut the budget." And one of the big things was that they had a huge budget for advertising in Europe. They had deals with Manchester United with the soccer. They had EA Sports. The soccer was premiered. They had exclusive content or something to that effect. They pulled everything. So yeah, they look great on paper because now they pulled everything from Europe. But what they did, in fact, was make themselves completely the other guy in Europe. And Sony, as smart as they are, they doubled down and they went into Europe and they basically, from a point where it was probably 70-30, Sony was still winning. Now it's like 90-10. The share is really bad for Xbox. Where to the point where next console that like, are you going to even release it? Why would you? Nobody's going to buy it, or you're going to have to do it on a limited scope because there's not the demand. So again, the hardware is looking really, at the moment hurts you in games because more and more you become like less of a player. Then third party developers start doing what they've done already, like with Wukong and with the Baldur's Gate 3. you're going to be really like not even thought about in the next couple of 2 years, and you're going to lose more games. So not only are you not getting the exclusives on Sony, but you're from Sony, but you're giving them your exclusives. You're now losing out on those games, and just you call yourself a gamer, isn't it about the games? And then what are you going to say? Oh well, I have to be merged with a PC and have a dual boot, and I'm going to boot into Steam, Windows. Like nobody fucking wants that. No, a console is all about simplicity. Hit a button, be in your UI within 10 seconds, and they're gonna want it within 5 seconds. The next console, where literally you hit a button and you're on your game with no wait. That's
Mm-hmm.
the beauty of a console, Puertorock, is that,
Mm-hmm.
and I think you both agree. There's nothing to do. You hit
Mm-hmm.
it, you play it, it does everything for you.
Mm-hmm.
It installs your updates, tells you when. PC is not even close to being as streamlined as that. There's no denying that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So a console has its market, and for me, I kind of think that it's bullshit that everyone's like, oh, it's declining. Maybe it's declining because you suck. And if you were great, the market with Sony being as good as they are and Xbox being as good as they could have been could be booming. But you know what? When half that market is doing shit, yeah, the console numbers are not going to be as good. Just like this whole year, 19% for MPD. It was 19% and Sony was up, but guess what? It was offset by Xbox being down as much as they were, and the basically was flat. So to me, I think there's a huge market for console, and I don't care. There could be something that happens where even more people fluctuate to a console. So people saying consoles are dead, hold that talk. That you're speaking on only your behalf of because you like Xbox.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be the same for Sony. Not
Mm-hmm.
even fucking close.
All right. True Witty says reality is Xbox is a zombie walking. They gave up. Um,
Yep.
yeah. Lord Metroid, thank you for the super chat. Says Nintendo value their exclusives. Great show, and they do, and it works. Like, you
Yeah.
know,
Oh, well,
it
exclusives don't
yeah.
matter. That's the new thing. Shut
And
the fuck up.
and here's the thing: Nintendo creates, you could arguably say, underpowered
Yeah.
products compared to the competitors, but it doesn't impact them because of those
Nope.
games and exclusives that people want to play. They're more important
And their
than the device
likeness.
itself, and they like it.
Yeah, and the likeness of everything. Like,
Yeah,
like Xbox had Halo, and now they're fucking their most their most
iconic.
biggest exclusive everything
The
they're going to
icon.
be putting on
It's like
PlayStation.
Babe
Their
Ruth.
icon.
It's
I
like
know.
allowing Babe Ruth to play on the
Yeah.
Mets. Like
Yeah.
what? Get out of here.
And people say, we don't
No.
care. Just look at the Soto and Mets thing. Like
Yeah.
everyone really
Oh my
does
god.
fucking care,
That's a
bro.
whole nother
I know,
podcast on
I
that
don't want
one.
to even get into it.
Yeah.
But
I'm gonna
but the
say
thing
this
is that
on behalf of the Yankee fans. I apologize because they embarrassed themselves. I was like, this is embarrassing. This is more
well,
embarrassing than
but
console.
the thing
But
is
we'll,
people
we'll
do
move on from
care
that.
though.
That's
Like
that's
that's
a
the
separate
thing.
podcast. God, that was
Everyone will be
embarrassing.
like, it's just baseball. Nobody says that. The thing is that like I think like gamers and just like these things that are said, oh, it's just games and don't console war. No, there's a little bit more to it than that. There's things that, like we grew up opening,
There's
you always
investment.
grew up with memories,
Yeah, people don't realize
investments.
you invest a lot in gaming. You invest money and time. Like
Yes.
you invest two things in your life. You're putting in the money you work for, and you're putting in the time that you could be doing something else. So there's some investment in
100%.
gaming. So
And
it's a
people
lot.
do care.
Yeah,
And
they do.
exclusives fucking matter.
Yeah,
Like you're brain dead if you're saying exclusives don't matter.
you know.
It does matter. That new game that's coming out, I forgot the name of it, but like Wukong, like
Yeah,
that game is freaking awesome.
and
That
that's
game should be
accidental
on
exclusive,
Xbox.
or it's
Yeah.
an accidental game that's left out. Like
And
Sony
they
didn't pay
matter
for it.
though. Like exactly, but the thing
Yeah,
is that these things matter.
yeah.
So like let's stop being disingenuous. That's what I get frustrated with Twitter is because really we talked about it. Motherfuckers are being disingenuous. And then that, you talk about it's only a fucking a game or it should be, recreational. Motherfucker, you're lying about it
Mhm.
because you feel a certain way.
Yeah.
Think about that.
I
That's
think
beyond pathetic.
that's let me segue because
Let's be normal.
um
Let's at least not bullshit here. Like,
yeah,
can't be disingenuous. Like,
that's
once
a
it
good
gets to that point, throw your hands up in the
yeah.
air.
That's a good segue because the next two super chats kind of goes in line with what you're saying. So, JD Gamer, thank you for the super chat, my brother. I'm gonna read both of his super chats back to back because they're one big paragraph, right? So, JD Gamer says, "Let me offer a counter argument to this: console sales are the most important metric thing." So, let me stop right there. We're not saying it's the most important metric. What we are saying it is an important
Metric.
metric, right?
Yes.
But we'll continue on. All the gamers see a game in certain ways, but this is not the same way the younger generation does. Continue. Blockbuster sold and rented more DVDs than anyone, including Netflix, but Netflix, after getting their butt kicked in DVD rentals, changed the game, and we know where Blockbuster is now. Things change. So I always hated the Blockbuster analogy. Like anyone who uses it, I just can't stand it because that analogy doesn't apply to this scenario, right? Here's the thing about people don't know a Blockbuster, JDD Gamer, and I'm going to tell you something, and this is something for everybody knows. Blockbuster also knew streaming was going to be big. They knew. Everybody
Yes.
thinks that Blockbuster thought that it was just going to be DVD. All right. The problem with Blockbuster is, in fact, they knew it before Netflix was even created. In 2000, Blockbuster spent a multi-billion-dollar contract with a certain company. I'm not going to name that company now. I'm not going to tell you who that company is. But in fact, Blockbuster also predicted something that Netflix is being impacted today. Blockbuster knew in the future streaming would be the way to go to watch movies over the internet. And they bet the bank on that. But the thing Blockbuster did different was they didn't want to buy Netflix. They wanted to do it themselves, or they tried to do it themselves in early 2000 because they did not want their streaming services to be in the hands of the ISPs. They didn't want to rely on Time Warner and AT&T and all these other ISPs because they felt you don't really own the service then. They own the service because they could screw you over and say, hey, we're going to throttle you if you don't pay us this. So Blockbuster got with a certain company so they could start their streaming service, but build the fiber pipeline throughout America. So that way they own the actual pathway. You know what I'm saying? They own the ISP. They are the ISP, right?
They are the backbone.
Yeah, they are the backbone. Who do you think they bet the bank on to get this done? You want to know the name of the company?
I know. I think I know this answer.
Enron. And we all know what happened to Enron. When Enron collapsed and fell, Blockbuster lost billions. They bet the bank on Enron to do this for them, and they were gone.
Damn, Rock giving that education. Damn, Enron,
Enron,
and all the people,
Blockbuster. Blockbuster was way ahead of the game, and they were way ahead of the game because they knew a problem exists, which Netflix does have a problem. Netflix has to rely on ISPs. So when your Netflix prices go up, it's also because they're getting charged by the ISPs. That's why net neutrality, that's why Netflix, on every company that has a streaming service, they were big on net neutrality. They were big on that. Because without net neutrality, the ISP could determine speeds for anybody. Yes. So they go to Netflix, they'd be like, hey, you want more speed? Give us more money. If Netflix goes no, they throttle Netflix. Then the user gets this shitty experience on Netflix, and guess who we blame? We don't blame Spectrum. We don't blame Time Warner or Optimum Cable, whoever. We blame Netflix because my YouTube seems fine. These other streaming seems fine. It's you that suck. So then Netflix is like, all right, fine. Here, Time Warner. Here, guys. Here's more money. But then guess what Netflix has to do? They got to raise their prices. And Blockbuster knew that was going to happen one day. That's why they try to create their own backbone so they don't have to deal with that. They will have full control of everything. But they paid Enron to do it. And Enron
and you guys know what happened? Enron went defunct, and everyone that had a job with them lost their pension.
Yeah.
So even it got real deep.
But now,
great counter argument to that. Honestly, I kind of have heard that a lot. You know.
So now to JD Gamer, the main thing JD Gamer is missing is, and I get what he's trying to say. The problem is, people still want consoles. You see the sales every month. They just don't want Xbox consoles. Right? And then JD Gamer, and I remember you, and I seen you talk and conversate on all these other podcasts. You were all about the console. You thought Xbox was gonna dominate. with these consoles.
100%.
But now that they're not, now you're just like what TimDog is saying. Now everything is wrong. That's no,
Yeah.
brother. No, brother. It's just
You
Xbox
gotta
consoles
stay.
going
You've
through.
said things. Listen, there's people held accountable. I mean, I remember what pisses me off is like guys that go like, "Hey Tim, this is the future. This is that." In 2021, the same people were in 2022 were in my DMs saying if Phil doesn't make these games exclusive, the console is done and we can't have this and you should fire Phil and all this stuff. So now you're not about that? Like, come on, guys. You can't just jump and switch your position when you held such a firm position only 24 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And wherever it was, like you were all about exclusives and the pipeline. Look at all these games that Sony's not going to get while we'll be playing and we'll be getting it on Game Pass day one. That was the whole argument for 4 years. And you know what? It just never came to fruition for whatever happened, and those games are now all going to PlayStation. But that was what that's what you basically were saying, and so was I. But I'm real enough to say, you know what? They didn't follow that, and they're completely going a different direction and saying and
Mm-hmm.
doing the opposite. And I'm gonna call bullshit on that because you know what? It's whack what they're doing, and what they're doing is going to affect them again in the long term to the point where they could just be a publisher and they're not even touching hardware. And then you're really going to be, oh, I'm a Game Pass fanboy. Like, what are you going to say? Like, nobody's going to even talk about Xbox at that
Mm-hmm.
point,
Yeah.
and it's just going to be Sony alone, pretty much, and dominating. And Sony's going to charge what they want, and I'm not saying Sony
That's what I'm
is the
scared. I'll
greatest
be
company.
honest.
They're gonna do what they want,
I know. That's
and
what
there's no
sucks.
competition
That's what sucks.
because that's the reality. So it hurts us all, really. But I'm not saying Sony's a saint because I know the way they are. They will charge us more than they would have if Xbox was alive and kicking. But
I
it's
mean, look at
like I
now. We got
said,
$80 controllers.
yeah, you have $100
80,
controllers. They
and
could
I know so,
charge $90 a game.
so, and I agree. And people come up to me, oh, you're gonna regret the day Xbox leaves. I'm like, I'm not the one that made Xbox. People
No.
talk to me as if it was me. Like, glad I talk shit, but my shit talking isn't in the
You don't
boardrooms
want
or
them to die.
Microsoft. I'm not the one making these bad decisions. Like, I'm just talking shit or
Exactly.
I'm reporting the news. But I'm not. I didn't put Xbox in this. If anything, if I work for Xbox, I would be like, hey, how about this idea? I would be the ones advocating for exclusives, and they would probably fire me. I would probably be fired
Yeah,
working for them.
100%.
I would be the dude
Or
that
you
got
don't say
fired.
anything, or you
Yeah,
just know you read the writing on the
you
wall
know,
because yes,
I would,
they it's all about in Xbox in Seattle right now.
yeah,
It's all about everything's in Xbox and
yeah,
following Sarah Bond, double downing on it. Like everything is consoles don't matter. All the
yeah,
stuff that you see, like what the Xbox influencers are now like parroting, is all coming from them. But you know what? It's such a weak internal argument that it's just going to fall on its face like everything. It's like it's easy to predict when you see that the plan is an absolute horrendous horror show of a
mm,
plan. It's not a
yeah,
good plan in my opinion, and they're going to go ahead with it, and they're not going to change leadership, and they're just going to. We'll see. Hopefully they.
yeah,
I'm just hoping that they could still survive. I don't see it. I kind of see them just being a third party publisher in the end, and also cutting studios out that, quite frankly, are not making triple A's or don't have potential to have money. I mean, you look at a studio like Ninja Theory, great freaking studio, talented as hell, but they're on the chopping block. They didn't
You
make
think
any
so?
money.
Oh man,
Well,
so
yeah, I think what'll
what
happen
you
is
heard
that
anything about Hellblade? Cause I'll be honest,
no,
Hellblade
it's
left in
coming
a
to
whimper.
PlayStation.
It left in a
Yeah,
whimper. Like
it's
there was
gonna come
hardly
to
any talk.
PlayStation. It's coming to PlayStation, and then I guess they'll reevaluate. But the thing is that now they look at themselves and they're gonna say, "Hey, we don't have console, we don't have that cost, we don't have R&D. We have to now. We have 20,000 developer employees, whatever the amount is, or 15,000. we got to really start to, as they say in the business world, cut the fat. And I think that there's a lot of studios that they could do what they did with Tango, or
Sell
to
them
the
off
toy, sell them off or give them independence. But they're not going to want to have a studio like uh, Ninja Theory, for example, that it's not making money. I mean, you look at like people were like, oh well, Indiana Jones was number two game played.
for the
That
week.
game,
Yeah,
I know, but that game had 10,000 people playing it on Steam.
which is not a lot.
I mean, that's not a lot. That's not good. And you know how much money that game costs to make? A tremendous amount of money. So when
And
they
people
have these
forget
games,
that you have to add the licensing cost too. It's not free.
yeah, that game costs a ton of money for
So a game
everything.
like that costs even
So,
more because of licensing. Like
right.
Spider Man
So they're
costs
on the hole
more
on it.
because of licensings on top of that.
Right. They're in the hole, I'm pretty sure, on that game. And that's a freaking unbelievable studio. And it
Hmm.
doesn't matter. Look at Tango. They were a great studio. They
Hmm.
did another lie that Phil said, or another statement that Phil made, where he wants diversity and he wants global development, and Tango is proving that. That game got a freaking 89 Metacritic. It was loved. I finished it, played on, went to PlayStation, and then they just boot it. So when they're doing stuff like that, other studios are going to be, there's going to be more, whatever you want to call it. There's going to be more transition to, in my opinion, what they'll really become, and that's like a really trimmed down third party publisher with Game Pass, and that's it.
Okay.
So I mean that's the future I see. And they have these ridiculous numbers like 70 million by
Mm.
2027, or Phil said that he would have to shut it down.
Mm.
So guess what? They're not coming close to 70 million. I don't care what anybody says.
Mm.
Not coming close.
I mean, yeah. We got Cyfix. He
100 billion.
says
Go
streaming
ahead.
will stall very quickly. There's only so many people that play video games, right? And I think, yeah, the only hope streaming, cloud streaming has if it takes over a market, right? Like you're not gonna get 200 million streamers. It's just not the people aren't there.
Oh,
Something has to die for that has to stream. And I think
yes.
that's what people are saying. People are saying consoles are going to die for streaming, and streaming is going to take over the console market. But the problem is right now, and that might be the case 20 years from now, 30 years from
Right.
now, right? And I get that. But the conversation we're having is what about this gen and what about next gen? And I don't think cloud is anywhere close to be a factor
Nowhere.
next gen, right? Even though like now, I think one of the better streaming services right now is Nvidia Shield, and
Yeah.
hardly anyone uses it, right? And those that do use it, and I talk to guys who use it, they're like, "Hey, it's cool, whatever," but there's no way I will make this my main platform. One, sometimes you log on, you have to wait to play a game. It
Yeah.
puts you in a queue. I'm like, bullshit. They show me a screenshot. You're 55 in the queue. I'm like, oh, snap. So you're like, what is this, the DMV to play video games? You gotta wait? Like, that's ridiculous. They're like, yeah. And then they said, and,
100%.
and if you don't get the top tier service, like let's say if you get the cheaper ones, you're limited to how many hours you can play. I'm
Yep.
like,
And how about this? How about
that's not
this?
fun at all.
You, and everyone always, and myself, everyone makes a big deal out of like 60 frames per second dropping to 50, and then all these technical issues that
Hmm.
could happen. The slightest of technical issues we go nuts about. When you really dissect the cloud gaming and stuff like that, there's so much more things that are even more gameplay impacting that happen with lag, or just completely dipped frames per second because of your internet connection. Like, you're just adding a ton of variables that affect your game negatively, that gamers don't want. They want a flawless experience, and streaming is going to give you the least stable connection versus a locally played game on your hard drive right there in front of your TV. Until it becomes where you're better off playing off the cloud than a console that's
Hmm.
local, which I think, like you said, is 20 to 30 years away. let's not put streaming on any kind of pedestal. It's having a lot of growing problems, even with Nvidia, as well as they're doing. They're charging now for amounts of hours that you play. Your 100 hours, you're capped. Like, come on. I know gamers, and it might not be me now, but like gamers play thousands of hours in a
Mm,
month, and you're
yes.
capped at 100.
Well, we see, we
Like, come
see,
on,
we seen the wrap
guys.
ups. Like some gamers, I'm like, yo, 2,000 hours. That's literally 40 hours a week because that's a job.
I
I
know,
think a job,
I
a
know.
person who works 40 hours a week for the year is like 2,088 hours. And
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
knocking them. I'll be like, bro, I wish I
yeah.
was in your position, man. That must be a great life to just, whoo, play
I
games
wish,
like
yeah.
that. That would be amazing, right? This goes in JD Gamer with another super chat. And this goes along with what we're talking about. He says, "Here's the truth of the matter: people will always choose the path of least resistance. Whoever figures out how to provide that experience to the customer will end up on top via a la VHS, DVD, and streaming." And you are right. But you have to provide, just like what Tim said, it has to be just as good or if not better. When you look at streaming for movies, it's literally watching a movie without you having to drive to the video
Yes.
store. So that's why people
You're
gravitated
not
to it.
pressing buttons
You're not
and
doing
having
anything,
interactions.
and it's not messing up your experience. You're getting the same exact experience. It's easy and it's instant. That's why a lot of people moved on from buying physical games to downloading. Cause now you don't have to worry about, oh, I gotta pre-order this physical game and it may not be there the day it launches, or I have to wait for it in the mail. So that's why a lot of people moved on to digital, because it's easy. Right now, xCloud's not providing an experience. Like we said, some the latency, right? Some people don't even play first person shooters. Some of them play like the smaller games, whatever, right? Because it's more
Yeah.
tolerable. Maybe an
Like
RPG.
Persona.
Yeah, it's more.
Persona. Yeah,
Yeah,
perfect.
it's more tolerable, right? And it's like, okay, this is tolerable, whatever. But then you have some services that when you boot it up, it tells you you're on the waiting queue, and you're like, I don't got time for this. I want to play right now. You know what I'm saying? So cloud is not there now, and it's not anywhere near there in the future, right? It's
Way
going to take a
off.
little bit
It's
more,
way
right?
off.
It's going, and then on top
Right
of
now,
that,
it's a good compliment, but
and then
that
on,
it's not a
yeah,
means.
and here's the thing: for the casual, consoles are easy because the spec of the console is built in. All you do is connect it to the TV, and you're good.
Done.
Cloud streaming, you got to make sure you have a good internet plan. You got to make sure you have a good router and it's configured correctly. Because if you come with a $50 bullshit router, I don't care how good the service is.
Yeah.
Your experience is gonna suck, and you're gonna be like, why my experience sucks? Well, you got a bullshit $50 router. You need to get one of them $300 routers, and then you gotta make sure you go on the internet, get the best configuration for streaming and stuff like that.
And
Casuals don't want to
wire
do
it, and you
that.
have to wire it, and
Yeah.
also like having
Mm.
a low Wi-Fi signal. You got to run a wire. So yeah, it's at least resistance,
Yeah.
100%, JD. But streaming impacts. There's a lot of things to streaming that, like I said, a console gamer wants to hit a button and you're booted into a
Mm.
UI that's created to
Yep.
curated to your experience. So your last game played right there. Your friends right there. The last 5 games you played, a click of a button away. With PC, it's not that easy to do, or you have to set it up, preset it up. There's no argument that can say different because when you open any PC, you're not logging into a UI first.
Yeah.
Like I said, console's there, it's within seconds, and it's curated. And in the future, with AI and the technology that goes there, it's going to even know you even further and know what games you want, or it's going to
Mm-hmm.
suggest it to you. It's going to be so quick. Where, like I said, streaming there's more involved, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not even close to the quality of playing it locally.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, streaming is I think once again, Xbox, they were the first. They're always way too early, and they make a move way too early. Whether it was like DRM, yeah. Now we're almost 80%, 90% on Xbox digital, all digital. But you don't make that. You don't put the whatever, the crate before the horses.
Yeah, the car
But,
before the horse.
the car before the horses. You got to wait a little, and Sony's
Yeah.
been very good at that. Look at how Sony has approached streaming. They didn't make a big deal.
No.
They just kept doing what they did, and then one day, yeah, we got 4K streaming, and then yeah, 4K streaming on your PS
Portal.
Portal. They're taking it reactionary. They're not being envisionary on it, which in this case benefits Sony. Xbox was way too ahead. They sold Satya a pot of gold in 2018, saying that this is all going to do it. The reality is consumers are way off choosing streaming for
It's not even
real like
close.
hardcore gaming. Not even close.
Even the guys on streaming, they're only doing it because it's a good companion to the
Right.
device at home. They have a PC at home, or they have a Switch, or they have a PlayStation, or they have an Xbox. There is no that I've met a pure streaming gamer where that's the only thing they have. No, they have a device at home. They're playing on a device. Streaming is just a good optional addition. So that way they don't have to carry their device if they're on a road trip or something. You know what I'm saying? So streaming so far from what I see is a good companion way of playing that
100%.
sits right next to
Complimentary.
exactly. It's a complimentary service to keep playing games beyond your house. But once you're in your house, you're not trying to play that nonsense. You're going to be on
No.
your device. You're going to be on a PC, which is a native device, right? Because you know what's funny? They talk about consoles, but wouldn't that logic apply to PC too? Because PC's hardware. So wouldn't
Yeah.
the same happen to PC? Like PC is going to go away because no one wants to play on hardware. They could just play on the cloud device. And no one's saying that. People want hardware. Gamers want hardware. Whether it's PC or consoles, they're going to enjoy that. He says right here, to make my point clear, this is JD Gamer, thank you for the super chat. He says, to make my point clear, consoles by themselves as a group haven't cracked the 350 million unique users ever, and they need more market to grow. Continued. This is why both PC and Xbox have games on PC, because AAA games are expensive to make. All the console makers want growth to say their business reports. So I think you're arguing a different point, JD Gamer, because we're not saying businesses don't want to grow or make more money or take advantage. But what we're saying is, particular to Xbox, they're making the moves to leave console gaming. They're not trying to stay in.
Yeah.
The moves they're
No.
making, the moves they're
Everything's
making,
an Xbox.
yeah, that's what me and TimDog are trying to say, and everybody. Microsoft's moves doesn't say, "Oh, we are in console gaming. We're all in. We're gonna dominate." They're not saying that.
And the opposite.
They're the opposite. So the market Microsoft's gonna do. Let me put it this way, JD Gamer. You're gonna wake up to a world where you're not gonna have an Xbox console to buy, but the PlayStation, Nintendo guys, they're
And
still
then
gonna
what
have hardware.
happens?
And you're gonna be
And then
like,
what?
then what do you do, JD Gamer?
Then you get
will be
pissed.
the one. You're the one that's not gonna have a console to play, right? And I think this is a good segue to talk about these OEM. So let me finish off this last super chat because I really want your thoughts on this OEM. Glassdoor Gamer says, "Did you see the Xbox Twitter marketing PC setups today? Oh man, this is a company throwing darts at the board for a vision with a hardware identity crisis." And that's a good segue. This is how I see Xbox OEM devices. I'm sorry for bumping into the camera, guys. I'll be honest. To me, they're nothing but gaming laptops, but the box is going to look like a console. Because when you think about it, right, what's a gaming laptop? It's a miniaturized gaming PC, right? So it's a 3050 card in it, right? Has Intel Core i5, right? And a GeForce RTX, right? You could take this motherboard, reshape it, put it in a console-looking device, right? And then the OS is Windows, but Microsoft creates an Xbox mode. Kind of like, we got Windows tablets, right? And the Windows tablets are in tablet mode, right? Even the Windows operating system you guys have right now, we all have it. My laptop accidentally, I don't know how, and I mentioned this before, got into tablet mode. But my laptop's not a tablet. It doesn't have touchscreen. I don't know how it got into that mode, but it literally was tablet mode, and it was weird. I had to get out of it. So Windows has tablet mode built into it. It's just whether you use it now. I think Microsoft is updating their Windows with console mode or Xbox mode. They're going to create these OEM consoles, that's what they're going to call it, but it's no different than building a laptop. It's going to be an embedded, integrated motherboard with a GPU, with a processor, with all RAM, integrated, built in, install Windows, By default, it will be Xbox console mode. So when you turn it on, it boots up the UI for a console. And just like Tim said, they're going to overcharge you because Acer, Dell, Lenovo,
Level.
they don't have a storefront. They don't sell games. They make their money off of the hardware that they sell, just like this laptop. Asus, you know, this is Acer, whatever. This company that bought this laptop, they didn't make money off of Windows or they're not selling me games. They made money because I paid Acer. I paid Acer for the laptop, so they charged me $900. So I bought it for $900, but it probably cost $500-$600 to build, and they made or $700 to build, and they made $200-$300 profit off me. Right? That's what's gonna happen, in my opinion. And I would like your opinion. To me, that's what I think is gonna happen with these OEM. The way I see it is like this: PlayStation 6, right? Every launch, PlayStation loses money for like a good year, year and a half. It takes some time to get the console out of losing revenue. But the reason why they do that is because they want to build a powerful console. So let's say the PlayStation 6, I'm just making up numbers for the conversation, is $700. They sell it for $600 for like, you know, and then over time,
they lose 100. Yeah.
They're going to lose 100 with every console sell. But by the time a year and a half comes, they break even and then they make profit only because, you know, it's cheaper to manufacture. But let's go with the initial launch. PlayStation 6 launches, they sell it for $600, but it costs them $700 to put together. The OEM manufacturers, they're going to build a $700 OEM Xbox, but they're not going to sell it for $600. They're going to sell it for $900. So imagine you buy a $900 Xbox and the $600 PS6 outperforms it because the PS6 is going to be specially built with a specific specification. And you know, Sony's going to do their little bespoke technology, trying to improve it, pisser, all this other stuff, right? The OEMs, they're just going to put machines together. It's going to have either Intel or AMD processor. It's going to have NVIDIA or AMD GPU. Put some RAM, put it together, just like a laptop, and sell it. You're not going to get no special configurations. Dell's gonna build whatever they build. Lenovo's gonna build what they build. Acer's gonna build what they build. Asus, all these manufacturers are gonna build all these different configurations. So none of them is gonna be optimized. And that's another thing. As a console gamer, these are not gonna be optimized to the metal. They're just PCs. Imagine buying a $900 OEM console and the PlayStation 6 at $600 is smoke checking it. How embarrassing would that be?
Yeah, listen.
And Xbox name is attached to it.
Yeah, that's where
the
it
key.
gets.
That's the key.
No,
They're gonna blame
that's
Xbox.
the thing. Agreed. It's just gonna be, and people are gonna like try to back it. Now, what they're gonna say is, well, I can play all the Sony games that come to PC, all the PC games, and then I can play Xbox. Okay, that you could say that is an advantage. But I think the reality is that how many people I think that they're going in. I don't know who the company is that they're doing their presentation at CES, but they're going to be involved. I would think Samsung would be involved, and like you said, they're going to have they're not making money anywhere else but the hardware. So I could see it being like 3 PCs starting at $799.
They're not gonna
You
be
can
cheap.
get it.
They think
Yeah,
they're
they're
gonna
not
get
going to be
they
cheap.
think they're gonna get a $399 Xbox OEM. Like no,
No, it's not going to
No.
happen. Or and it's going to be different specs. And I don't know. I just think also in lieu of that, the identity, like people are just it's going to be like, oh, I could get this, but I could just get the straight console. There's no confusing shit. It's not Acer. It's just Sony. You know what I mean? So like I do think overall, like 3DO did this, and
Yes.
guess what? Guess how much their console is. People who are gonna say you don't know what you're talking about. Let's do what history
Expensive.
says. 3DO was $700. You know how I
And that
know?
was years ago. We were
I
there.
mean, this was I bought the console. Okay,
Holy shit!
guys say I'm not a
You were
gamer.
one of the few.
I was one of the few. Okay, it had a game called Jez or Jex, and it had a game called Road Racer, Rage Racer, or whatever. It was great. The motorcycle game. But the thing was is yeah, it's $700. Go look it up. That's the equivalent to being like 1,000 right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So not only do you have that issue, I think you have an identity issue. And then like I said, just think that Xbox can just say, "Oh, well, we do offer a console. There's this amount of people making consoles." So
Mm-hmm.
you're getting redefined what a console is versus the most console that there could be. Pretty much with Sony.
Mm-hmm.
And Sony has all the brand recognition. Sony has the past records, the recognition. They have all your games, and they have all their games coming out. They're going to start to really now. You're going to see them pump up. 2025 is going to be a big year, I think, for their publishers, the developers. You're going to see a lot of things coming. No more droughts or whatever you want to say. Um, but the reality is that this is just further eroding the Xbox console, in my opinion. And I listen. I thought even a year ago when they talked about this thing like OEMs and different Xbox that everyone would be like up in arms, like no way would I want that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I would think that almost everyone would agree, but
Mm-hmm.
these guys are so like beat up that they're looking for anything that they're like behind it.
Yeah.
Like it's like they're excited about it. I mean, I'm not going to tell you what to get excited for, but man, I don't know, man. I don't see. I think their vision is way too early. They're making a move way too early, and they're going to pay dearly with this.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just overall their decisions are really bad, and I got to see what the OEM does. You're probably going to hit a button. You'll be in Windows, and your controller
Mm-hmm.
is the mouse. I mean, I don't know how they're going to do it, but like we talked about,
In my
reality is
opinion,
people
yeah.
want the simplicity.
In my opinion, it's like you could do it now. The way I see it, like don't even wait for these
Yeah,
boxes. Just get a
I think
PC
that's. I think
and
it's
don't
going to
worry
happen
about it.
now.
And it's gonna be a better
Right?
deal because what I think is they're gonna overcharge these OEM
Yeah,
boxes because they have the name Xbox and console as branding. When in reality, it's like a
and they
laptop.
don't need. They don't need to sell 100,000 consoles. You
No,
got
they
to
don't
realize, from Samsung's perspective, they only have to sell a certain amount, and
because they're gonna
they're
make
going to
money off the
have a
console.
yeah, they're going to have a profit margin. They're not working from the. See, the
They're not
things is
competing
that
with
when you
PlayStation. They don't
right, and you're
care.
not,
Yeah.
and they don't have the advantages of say, okay, we're going to lose money on hardware. Okay, we can do this and that. Where, there's certain things that you get perks with making your own console. When it's done like that on a third party basis, fucking all the costs is delivered. Guess who's paying it? You. You
Mm-hmm.
don't. You're not going to be finding anything that's going to be like good and playing Xbox games. And I assume they're going to have different spec sets, but like
Yeah.
like they'll have like a $1,200 OEM Xbox, which is like a 50. Well, it's not going to be 50, not a 4090, maybe even like a 4070. Who knows how they're going to do it? But I just like I said, I really think that overall they're just going to really shrink their market that they once owned. They're losing pretty much almost everything. They'll be down to 4% share of what they used to have, compared to they had like going into this gen they had like a 20% share. It's going to be like at 4. So it's bad business in my opinion.
Let me run down the Steam Machine in 2014. I found an article that broke down all the OEM manufacturers of Steam Machine. The first one, a company called Alternate. They were selling it for $1,339. This is 2014. $1,300. The CPU was an Intel Core i5, a 4570 graphics, Intel Core i5 4570. The graphics was a Gigabyte GTX 7060, and the RAM was 16 gigabytes. Right? Cyberpower PC. Theirs was $499 and higher, so they have multiple models. But the base one for 500 was either AMD or Intel Core i5 CPU graphics, and either AMD Radeon R9 270 or NVIDIA GTX 7060. But the RAM was 8 gigs. So you already see that. You already see two machines. One has 16 gigs of RAM, the other had 8. This is what I'm
Right.
saying. It's not going to be optimized, right? Because you have too many
Yeah,
different
it's not gonna be
configurations.
streamlined.
Here's another
Not
one.
streamlined.
Yeah, Digital Stormbolt 2, $2,584 for their version Steam machine. Had a CPU. It was an Intel Core i7 for the 4770K. The graphics was a GTX 7080 Ti, and the RAM was 16 gigs. You got. Let me see if I could. It's a whole list, but let me see. I buy power, right? I seen them make PCs. I think everybody knows them.
Yeah,
They
I bought
had
this again.
minimum 499. So their cheapest was 500 and up. Their CPU was a quad core AMD or Intel graphics, and a Radeon GCN graphics RAM was 8 gigs. What's another ridiculous one? Scan NC 10, $1,090. CPU Intel Core i3, 4000 M graphics, and an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 765, and their RAM was 8 gigs. So a lot of these was 8 gig RAMs. Only a few had 16 gigs, right?
Yeah.
Here's another one. Web Halen, 1,499. I don't even know who this company is. But I'm sure maybe PC gamers, hardcore PC gamers might know who they are. But $1,500. This is 2014, mind you. CPU Intel Core
Wow.
i7 graphics, NVIDIA GT 7080 RAM, and a RAM 16 gigs. This is ridiculous. Like, you got all these random models. Some are AMD, some are Intel, some are Nvidia, some are AMD. Some have 8 gigabytes of RAM, some have 16. Right now, this is normal
Right.
in the PC world. This is normal. This is what PC gamers go through, and PC gamers accept that because a PC gamer understands if you want the best, if you want better, you have to buy it. It's on you to get the hardware for the experience you want. But console gamers are not like that. We console gamers, we want optimized experience. This is not an optimized console experience. You can't get that.
It's all over the place.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's all over.
depending on how they're going to do it. I would say watch CES. I think me and you both watch CES and see what they're hinting at. But yeah,
This is
I
gonna
don't
be
really like
insane.
this. I think this road is really bad. And then and we talked about the handheld previously.
Hmm.
That's going to be like I think their hardware focus, and I just think that's going nowhere. So yeah, I'm an Xbox fan. That was an Xbox fan, but if I'm speaking on the truth on it, their business plan went from cat shit to dog shit. It's not good. It's just let's be in my opinion, I'm allowed to have that opinion.
Hmm.
It's not based on just me with an axe to grind. No, I don't see that as a if they had something that really intrigued me, I would say it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I just don't see that. It's like all over the place, and I'm just really like I can't believe the remaining fans are not like saying, "Oh, this sounds like dog shit," like because it really does. We just went over what they did with the Steam machine, and
Hmm.
what 3DO did with the console, seven
But some
hundred
of them don't
dollars and
know. They
what?
didn't live through it. We lived through it. We seen it.
No, I mean
In
it just
fact, some of these guys don't
never
even remember
went
the Steam
well.
machine. They don't even remember that. So they just don't know. You know.
Maybe even Steam gets involved. I don't know. I think that's the biggest problem too, and we talked about that. Is Sony going unchecked. You don't ever want that. So
Hmm.
reality is you want Xbox to try to get themselves straightened out here and get some type of hardware in the field where it's competing with Sony, because if they don't compete, Sony's gonna own the whole thing, and they're gonna charge what they want. Because gaming, I think we're gonna start to see this, especially with GTA. Gaming is expensive, and now more than ever, they're gonna start to push that on the consumer. Gamers, God bless you, you fight and you fought to have gaming at the price that it is right now, especially on the console side, like and the way just with the even PC gamers too, like nobody wants to pay $100 for games, but that shit's coming, man. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, that stuff's coming. The way it's just all going. So
Hmm.
get ready for when GTA comes out, because that game's not going to be $70, in my opinion.
That's gonna be interesting. We'll see. You know, hopefully, I mean, man, that is gonna be bigger than life, you know, and stuff. But I mean,
Hope it
yeah,
is.
it's just so like, what do you think how the next 4 years gonna play out? Yeah, we'll start. We'll start. Well, let me start with this. How do you see Nintendo? I'm gonna change topic for quick. How do you see? Because I think Nintendo is gonna launch their Switch 2, this year,
Right.
or I mean
March.
2025, right? I think they're gonna announce it. You know, officially unveil it in January, probably after
Right.
CES, right, in their own
Right.
time, and then it's gonna get ready for March. What do
Yeah.
you see? What, in your opinion, you think Nintendo's gonna do? Because here's my thing: with Xbox winding down in the console market, I think Nintendo could be like, you know what? We're not gonna leave Sony just to dominate on their own, because I think that's what's
Mm.
happening. That's why I think there's rumors of Valve coming back, maybe Nintendo becoming more powerful. Because I don't think anybody just wants to leave this huge console market to just Sony as
With
a free
Sony,
gift.
yeah.
So what do you think? Do you think Nintendo's gonna try to? What do you think Nintendo's thinking of?
I
And I
think
know
I
it's just
think
an opinion.
no, I think Nintendo's very well run. And I think that Switch 2 will do very good. I don't know if it's going to do as good as Switch, but I think Switch 2 will do very good, very respectable. The big thing with Switch 2 is that now they're going to supposedly have a handheld that can compete in the AAA space like Call of Duty. So you'll see publishers making games for Call of Duty like day one, and who knows, it could have crossplay because it could be that powerful. If it does play AAA popular games that are high end that Nintendo previously didn't have, I think that's a good selling point, and I think that they will basically still dominate the handheld. I think they're going to be the preferred handheld, even though the market could come a little saturated. I still think that they're the go-to player, and I think that they've always been very well run to this point.
Mm-hmm.
They've done the last since the
Mm-hmm.
Wii U, which was a mistake.
Yeah, but they
They
learn from
really,
it.
yeah, they learned from it, and they're one of the few people that make these games within the budget, and then the games sell 30 million. So
Beyond, yeah.
yeah, it's like crazy. So the bottom line is I would say that they're gonna do very good, but just I don't think that they're gonna sell the mass. I don't think they're going to sell 150 million Switch 2.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the next iteration of what they're doing, they could have a chance to really compete with Sony on the console market. Maybe they get back into a console hybrid type thing. But I kind of see the Switch 2 to be doing very solid, but maybe to the point where they need to kind of try a little something different in the next generation. But I think you're pretty much going to get 85% of what Nintendo was this generation, which is extremely strong for next generation. They'll do well, and it's be interesting to see what they do in the third party space, like the AAA spaces, like the Call of Duties, Battlefields, and those games. If those games come out day one and they're online enabled, and they have Warzone, and they have
Mm-hmm.
I think they do have
Well, they
Fortnite
have
already,
Fortnite
but
already,
yeah, like that,
but
I
they
think
get the
that
games
could.
they miss out on with the second
Right,
iteration.
I think that could be a nice selling for them. But again, I don't think it's going to do as well as the Switch,
Yeah. So
which
that's why.
did good numbers.
Yeah. So shout out to Murra D. He says, "Great chat. ESG killed Xbox." Um. So with Nintendo, I'm looking at the Nintendo Centric channels, and a lot of them are hyping the Switch to have more powerful technology
Right.
because from what they're saying, Nintendo wants in on the third party. Like they missed out on way too many big third party titles, like Grand Theft Auto 5. Them missing out on that is
Yeah.
huge. That's a
Yeah.
lot of money off the table that for that 30% cut that they're just not getting. And you saw the games this year. They didn't get Black Myth Wukong, Elden
Yeah.
Ring. You know, there's a lot of
Call of
games.
Duty.
Yeah, Call of Duty. There's a lot of games that they're just missing out on that as a company, and they have their own store, they have their own digital store, they have their online to which they charge. There's a lot of big games that Nintendo is missing out. So there's a lot of prediction from Nintendo content creators and influencers talking about that the hardware is going to be good enough to run these games, and they're not going to miss out, right? And that's what I'm looking at, because if Nintendo could finally make that hardware, doesn't have to be a PS5 Pro or anything like that, right? But enough to really compete and get those games. That could be the balance gamers need, so that way PlayStation doesn't get out of hand, right? Because if
Mhm.
it gets too out of
That's a
hand,
lot of-
people could say, well, I could play all these third party games on Nintendo. You know, maybe not as best, but good enough. And it prevents me from buying a $2,000 PlayStation console, right? It could get ridiculous, right? Because that was
Right.
like the big thing for 360. You know, Sony was charging $600, and people were like, man, I could play Grand Theft Auto for $4. Like, why do I need to
Yeah.
pay $6 to play Devil May
Yeah.
Cry, Final Fantasy? And that was the big thing. That's why I put Sony in check with the price. You had an alternate option to play these games, right? And I think Nintendo could be that alternate
Could
option.
be
But my
that
thing with
alternate.
yeah, but my thing with Nintendo is I have not seen signs of them actually giving a damn about that. They have been
Mhm.
so in their own lane for so long. I'm not confident that they want to step out that lane again, because they've been so successful just doing their own lane and having this methodology of, this is the Switch, this is our device, this is how we build it. If you want to make a game for it, fine. If you don't, we don't care. That's none of our business. But we're gonna do what we're gonna do, and they've been successful. That's why, like with the Switch, Switch has 140 million sales. That is huge, and eventually, I think it will eventually pass the PS2. But the difference between Switch and PS2 is PS2 dominated the market. If you making a game, that's on PlayStation 2. That's not the same for Switch, right? Like, nobody made Black Myth Wukong thinking with Switch in mind. The game's not on
No.
Switch. You understand what I'm saying? You know, Take Two with Rockstar, they're not thinking of the Switch making Grand Theft Auto 6. You understand what I'm saying? Assassin's Creed,
Yeah.
the one that's coming out next year. Ubisoft's
A
not
hundred
like,
percent.
we got to make sure this game runs on a Switch. Like, Switch, even with its 140 million um, lead,
Base.
or, you know, there's no impact. It wasn't like the PS2. PS2, when it had its 100, 120, 130, you're not gonna. Very few people decided to make exclusives for GameCube or Xbox and not put on PlayStation 2. That was the market dominating console. Switch is not the market dominating console in terms of the industry. No one's worried about, oh, we gotta get this game on Switch. We just have to. It's people are making games and it's not on Switch. They're bypassing it because Nintendo put their own lane. And they're happy with that. And that's why I have reservations about Nintendo stepping out of their lane to create a
Yeah.
console that third
Oh, good
party can
point.
take advantage of. That's my only thing.
Kind of-
So I'm not
Yeah.
totally sold on that. I hope they do,
A
but
hundred
I'm not
percent.
to
I
yeah,
kind
I'm
of
not
feel
totally
like they're
sold
in
on
a
that.
weird position, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't feel like I think Switch hit and it was like new and it was just hit on all cylinders.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see them having that smooth of a transition here. Like I agree with you. I kind of feel like they're in a little bit of a weird position. Where are they gonna stay in their own lane, or are they gonna say, hey, we're gonna be getting games like Wukong and
Grand Theft Auto
all those other
6. Is
games.
Grand Theft Auto
Yeah.
6 going to be on there? Doom Dark Ages. Because I'm sure Microsoft would love to put Doom Dark Ages, Indiana
A hundred
Jones
percent.
on the Switch too. I'm sure they would love to. They would absolutely love to. But is the hardware even as good as the Series S? Because if it's not even like the Series S, they're going to be like, shit.
Yeah, I know.
This
And
is
it's
like,
supposedly it's
Series
not.
S is hard enough, let alone
I heard
something
it's like
weaker.
equivalent to like a PlayStation 4 Pro. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something like a PlayStation 4
Yeah.
Pro. I don't know.
Yeah. So that's where, the
You know
toughness
they're gonna
is.
come in a certain price range too. They're not gonna be too
They don't
expensive. It's
sell
not
at a
gonna be six
loss.
months.
They don't sell at a
Yeah,
loss. They're not,
right.
and they're not going to sell this thing for like $600 to get it powerful.
No.
400 at the most, and that's where I'm like,
Yeah.
if you're selling a Switch for
You
profit
can
at
only
four
do
hundred
so much.
dollars, there's only so much power you can put in the damn thing. And
Yeah.
DLSS is not the end all be all. Like come on now, it can only do so much. Like
Hundred
you have to have
percent.
a little base. There was one Nintendo content creator that's saying, don't expect too much. It's gonna be what we will consider 2050, and I'm like, on a laptop. I'm like, whoa. I mean, I don't know. It's
I
just
don't know.
that,
That's not
that like
good.
I don't know, But again, it comes down to if Nintendo stays in their own lane. What I would like to see, and this is just me, you know, obviously the handheld itself can only do so much, right? But what I would like to see Nintendo do is adopt the external GPU strategy, where like they create separately, right? You have to buy it separately, but the docking station, but a docking station
Yeah.
that's actually an external GPU and has its own RAM.
Uh-huh.
It could cost $200, I'm fine with that. I'll buy the Switch for 400. I'll buy the Switch 2 for 400, and I'll buy this external docking station for 200, 250, whatever. When you plug it in, the docking station takes over, and you get
Mhm.
that boosted performance. I will be happy with that. I'll take that. But
Yeah.
I don't know if Switch is gonna do
I
that.
think that, yeah. I don't. Nintendo seems to always come up with certain innovations
Hmm.
that maybe there's something about it. I heard it's an OLED, which is nice. I heard it's really sleek. As far as the way it looks, and I think it's really cool.
Hmm.
Or at least what the leak do. But
I saw that. It
I'm
looks
not
big
worried for
too.
them. I think they'll be
Oh, they'll be
strong.
fine.
But yeah,
As a company, they'll be fine. Their product's gonna do good. They're gonna sell good. They're gonna sell a lot of games. I'm sure it's gonna be fully backwards compatible with the Switch.
yeah,
So I think they'll be absolutely fine from that front. I was just wondering what more. Like, are they really gonna try to be like, you know what? We're gonna step back in and compete with PlayStation a little bit more because we want these games. We want Grand Theft Auto 6.
yeah,
We want these big titles that we missed out on. So I was wondering if
hundred
Nintendo's
percent.
actually doing that. It's gonna be interesting. Naven said, "Thank you for the super chat. That's not gonna happen. We're getting a Switch Pro." I don't know. Maybe so. It- but the good part is it's coming soon, right? I think it's coming real soon. January we'll get
March.
that. March, and then it's launching in March, and we'll know. We'll know by the end of January, in my opinion. By the end of January, before February, they'll unveil the Switch 2, and then they'll start marketing. They'll release the when it's gonna launch, what regions, all that stuff. So it's gonna be interesting. Now, I think PlayStation's pretty easy because they just released the PS5 Pro. So I don't think they're
Yeah,
gonna make a lot of new hardware. I think in my opinion they're done with the hardware up until this handheld. And I don't think this handheld ain't gonna come out for maybe another 2-3 years. I think right now
yeah,
they got the VR, they got the Pro, they got the base console. So I think right now Sony's just gonna coast with games. Get third party deals,
yes.
push out more first party exclusives.
I see
Because
more third party
yeah,
deals.
PlayStation really hits towards the latter half. For some reason, that's when they really get going. Is the latter half of the gen. That's when they go all out, and I think that's what they're gonna do. I think at this point now, all the hardware, the portal, the VR, all that shit's out the way. Now it's just let make more announcements and all these projects that they've been working on for the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years, whatever. It's time to release them. It's time to get them out there, and I think that's gonna be a big deal. Whatever. You see anything more than that for PlayStation over the next four
Um,
years to cap off the gen?
I, I think they're going to be real aggressive,
Mm-hmm.
and I like that about them. I think they're going to really start to push the exclusives. Like being that Xbox is basically saying exclusives don't matter. I think Sony's going to be like, guess what? We're double downing on them, and they're gonna. I think they're really gonna make a strong play for the Chinese market,
Mm-hmm.
which is good. So yeah, I think they're gonna just become more dominant. I
Mm-hmm.
really think that they're in a really strong position because of the missteps of
Yeah.
Xbox.
I will say there is one Achilles heel, and I tell people, and people think I'm trying to grift or trying to appease Xbox, and I say this, but I think their weakest link right now, and I would like to know your opinion, is a live service strategy. Like you got Helldivers, which is great, but man, Concord was the worst project they
Taco
ever
was
done.
big
A big L,
loss.
a big like the biggest. The biggest.
Yeah, really
There
bad
is
for them.
nothing as bad ever in PlayStation brand history. Not even like The Last Guardian or even what's
No.
it, Gravity Rush. None of those games did as bad as Concord was bad. You know what that is? It only lasted 2 weeks, and they gave a full refund.
Yeah, well,
You
listen,
just
I think that might have been a blessing in disguise
yeah.
because Jim Ryan at the end was really buco crazy on those type of games.
He went too hard.
And listen, Helldivers was a huge hit, so that kind
Mm-hmm.
of offsets it. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they lost a ton of money at Concord, and I just think that I think they're going to take a much safer strategy moving forward, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that those. What are they called? I forgot the name of it. Those type of games like
Live service
Helldivers.
or live service
Yeah,
games.
live service is. I don't think. I think that listen, you can say what you want about Sony, but when they fuck up, they sure hell realize it, and they don't. They say we fucked up, and then have a really
They don't
strong
make excuses.
plan
I give them
moving
that.
forward.
I give them
Yeah,
that.
so
When
I
they
think
fuck
that they're
up,
gonna.
yeah.
I think they're really in a strong position,
Mhm.
honestly. Um, and I think they're gonna secure more exclusives. They're gonna announce more exclusives. I'm not worried about intergalactic. I think all that stuff that goes on with it is just
Yeah, that's
it's
just
just
terrible, man. That's just
it's just whatever. It's just
yeah. I'm
talk.
so
But
sick
I
of
think in
it.
the end, you got to have credit to Naughty Dog. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it'll be a good year for the Pro next year because I do think that it's gonna really do. GTA 6 is gonna be it being that it's only console exclusive at this point. People want to play the game best, so I think that that's going to help them. And yeah, I think that they get it. They see blood in the water, and they're going to act accordingly, and they're going to pounce, and
Mhm.
furthermore gain more share. So I think they're in a really good position right now. Just they have to worry about these live services bets. I could see some games canceled, but then I could see some games also getting announced through the Chinese market. I think that
Mhm.
they're really hot on that, and they could. I don't think that they would acquire a Chinese studio because it probably would be shot down.
Yeah.
But I do see them having a strategic partnership, and it makes a lot of sense because let's face it, Xbox doesn't have the share. Like if they had a 25% share, they have much more of a say. When you become more and more or less and less relevant, you get less and less of a say. So I
Mhm.
think that's what you should expect a strong 2025 for PlayStation.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think about that.
And
Okay.
I'm saying with you on the handheld,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's going to be good, but I don't think
Yeah.
it's going to really
It's gonna light
impact.
fire. Like I
Yeah,
try to look at this handheld because you see conversations. Oh, the next. You know what's funny? They don't like console wars, but now they're setting the stage for handheld wars. And I'm like, are you
yeah, I
serious?
know.
Like
I
that's
know.
just stupid. Like no one gives a shit about a handheld. Like there's
No,
no
I will
handheld
not be
war.
posted
But
about.
then
I
they make
could
fun
care
of
less.
us for console warring.
Yeah,
But then the same people that make
yeah,
fun of
yeah.
us, they're already creating the handheld
Sliding
war. I'm
on.
like, shut
Yeah,
up. Like that's just
yeah,
stupid and boring. Like that's never a big thing,
yeah.
right? But I don't see
No.
the handheld market other than Switch. I'm like, I try to look up Asus sells. Hardly
Yeah.
anyone buys it. Lenovo Legion Go.
Everyone loves Asus, I think,
Yeah,
but they
but it's not
just but
like
they
it's selling 10 million. You don't see them number one in
no,
MPD.
no,
Like
no.
this is even the Steam Deck. It's around 4 to 5
Yeah,
million after 2 years. Like, come on, this is not even worth the conversation. Like, I'm not even talking about this.
exactly.
It's a niche market. See, to me, handheld of that level for AAA games is a niche market. Console sell much more than that than these
Much bigger
handhelds.
market.
Yeah, so I don't see that. But I said for me, PlayStation, it's really they got two games in the pipeline for live service. They have Fair Games and then Marathon, which is Bungie's next big project. But I'm gonna say this, man:
But
if
who
those two games
knows?
flop, that's bad. That shit's over.
Yeah, it's not
They're done.
good.
And I wouldn't know what happened to Bungie if
They'll
Marathon
collapse
flops.
those
Like
studios.
if
I
if
don't think
Marathon
they'll collapse
flops,
Bungie.
what would
Yeah,
happen to Bungie if Marathon flops?
they're in bad shape, real bad shape. But
They're done.
listen, if Fair Games flops,
They're done.
I think they're done with that studio. It's
They're
gone. They're
done.
gonna just deal with it.
Just like
So
Concord
these
Studios,
studios are like
done.
either you make it
Or you're gone.
or you're gone.
Yeah,
And I think that they'll also, like I said, I think they're going to make more of a third party play. So they might get another developer. They might get Helldivers 2 secured as a console exclusive or Helldivers 3. And they might get another one like less of a risk that they can, do, but they'll secure it as an exclusive because I think that they have a real opportunity there. Just double down on exclusives.
or
Everyone's
even
saying it
now more
doesn't
than ever,
matter.
because Microsoft's not gonna
Yeah,
fight it. They don't care to fight it now.
exactly.
I mean,
So yeah,
they're like it's not in a way. I don't think even Microsoft's concerned with what third-party games Sony's trying to money have. I think they moved on from that. You know,
100%.
yeah. But that's the thing. So Fair Games is next, and I agree with you. If Fair Games flops, I don't think Sony's gonna give any live service studio a second chance. You either succeed
No
or you're
way.
gone,
Well,
which is
they're really,
sad. That's a sad
yeah,
scenario, but I think that's the reality we have to accept.
yeah, they're really at this point. I would say definitely on shaky grounds with the way they really took a big hit
Hmm.
with the what was that game called? I forgot the name.
Concord,
The one that they
Concord,
Concord.
Concord. It was
Yeah.
bad. It was really bad. And then finally Xbox over the next 4 years. I think just with people hyping a new console, I'm like, man, that's terrible. You're 4 years into the gen, and you're talking more about hardware that don't exist than the hardware that does exist. Like Microsoft really, wow, they came
What I
back.
see,
They
I see a
they
really bad.
shit.
I see what I see for them is by 2027 they're a fully third party publisher with a few studios cut. I don't think they're expanding or anything. If anything, they'll just grow like Activision, maybe a little bit like Call of
Mm-hmm.
Duty, because they'll
Mm-hmm.
have to make for a Switch. But I see them. I don't see them in hardware. I see them out of hardware by like 20, out of hardware supporting, like, because they're gonna have the handheld.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see them making another console. And
They're gonna
if
leave it
they
up to the
do,
OEMs.
yeah, I
And
think
how
that's a
long do you
very
think that's
big
gonna
plus.
last?
I don't think long. I think I think by 2027, they're going to be a even much different company than they are now. And they're right now, they're much different than they were from a year ago. So, very, very bleak. Because I mean, they do have a lot of studios, but those games are just going to be third party making games for Sony. So the hardware is, I mean, it's dire. It's no good, and I don't see them hitting their numbers. And I do see, um, I think there's going to be changes in Game Pass possibly. The prices are going to go high. Just I mean, YouTube
And that's
and
every
all these,
subscription
all
service.
the
That's
yeah,
just
they go
yeah. That's not an Xbox thing.
YouTube.
Like
Yeah,
YouTube
YouTube
went up
TV.
insane.
Yeah, YouTube is $40 2 years ago. It's $93 now.
A month.
So
A
you,
month,
if
right?
you think, yeah, they're gonna charge like $40 for Game Pass, in my opinion, because it's good. It has a lot of value, and they'll have games come out for it, but you're gonna be taking that cost on,
Mm,
and they're just gonna say, hey, you either want it or you don't, and then they're gonna lock you in too. So
mm,
you're gonna have to pay 120 for if you're not gonna be able to swindle them anymore, like
yeah.
1 month off or 1 month on. They'll do what they did with Call of Duty. And that's just gonna stay in place, in my opinion. So, yeah, I don't really see much positive with them, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's just the reality with subscriptions. That's not just an Xbox thing. Every subscription service is finding ways to make more money out of the user base that exists. Look at Amazon, right? Amazon had Prime, and now they introduced commercials in their shows and movies, and they tell you, oh, if you want a commercial free experience, pay an extra $3 a month. And I'm like, but I already had a commercial free experience. You're changing it
Right.
up. So just so you can make an extra what, $48 a year off me? Like, you see what I'm saying? So they're all doing that. Disney Plus went up. So that's just the nature of the subscriptions. They just, it seems like when they first start, it's a great deal in the beginning.
Right.
But
It's
make no
always like
mistake,
that.
they're gonna get their money over time, especially
Yeah.
once they lock you in, and that's how you
Yep.
consume your content. Like, you forego
100%.
physical media. You no longer have a DVD. Like, I don't even have, other than the PlayStation, I don't have a movie player. PlayStation is really my only movie player, and I don't even use it for that.
Right.
So really, for my wife and whatever, my daughter's back at home in North Carolina, right? But if
Mhm.
they want to watch shows, they don't have an actual physical thing because they moved on from it. So the only way to
Right.
actually watch shows is through streaming platform. So we don't really have a choice but to pay for this, or you don't watch anything. You see what I'm saying?
100%.
So
So
they know, yeah.
it is what it is, right? You know what I mean? It's gonna go up, but I mean unfortunately, I really from the heart don't think that I think they're on a bad road. Can they change? I only see them changing if they have a complete culture change
Hmm.
and have completely new management, new ideas. Then that's, I mean, sucks. I mean, there's a lot of people that work there that I'm still friends with that I want to see them do
Hmm.
well, but I just think that at least the executive ends.
Hmm.
I think that they definitely need new management.
Yeah. Lord Metroid, thank you for super chat. He says Nintendo plus their exclusives plus Switch 2 equals money. Well, I mean, yeah, Nintendo, they They're primarily a game company, and they're gonna treat it as such. They're gonna be fine with the Switch 2, right? I was just wondering if they're gonna get out of their lane, but I think Switch 2 in its own right is gonna be successful, so they'll be fine. But
Yeah,
again,
100.
I want to see what they do because, like I said, every generation, as I said in the beginning of the podcast, every generation I look at as a new contract. What are you gonna do this gen, and do I like it? If you like it, I'm all in. I even mentioned like if Apple makes a console, I'm gonna be like, ooh, let me see what they have in store. I would buy it if they have exclusives, and the console's nice.
Yep,
I'm all in. Shit, I have no
100%.
issues. I would love to see Apple get in the game. Especially the way they do things. They really are about the identity and the brand and exclusives and exclusive content. And this is how you're gonna make the game. Like they're really about that, right? So I would love to
Right.
see them do AAA console gaming and their take on it. But I doubt it. But that would be an interesting world.
Yeah.
JD, yeah, JD Gamer. Thank you for the super chat. He says, "Is perception reality or is it reality? Many would say Xbox is losing games, but over the last 4 years, they've gotten access to more franchises and games than ever before from Atlas, Square Enix, and Konami. So I would agree. I absolutely agree. They did get like Persona. That was a new thing. Yakuza. Like a dragon, right? But I think the reason why a lot of people ain't giving as much credit as Xbox should is because you're talking about games that PlayStation been got. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
I think the expectation for Xbox is to get the new games PlayStation didn't get. Like for example, PlayStation got Stellar Blade, Phantom Blade Zero, Lost Solo Side. So yeah, the Yakuza's, the Atlas, Square Enix, Konami. Yeah, PlayStation always had that. But look at the Rise of Ronin. Look at all this new stuff PlayStation getting. That's what people want to see from Xbox. They just don't want Xbox to be the catch-up console. Okay, you finally got Final Fantasy VII when PlayStation had that in. Like Death Stranding. Perfect example. A lot of gamers are enjoying Death Stranding. They finally are understanding what PlayStation gamers enjoyed back in 2019. You don't want to wait 5 years to finally enjoy something that now you're playing catch up to what a PlayStation gamer enjoyed 5 years ago. You see what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure, as you know, Tim, you want to be ahead of the curve. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You don't want to be the catch
100%.
up. You don't want to be the leftover sloppy second console. Congratulations, you got Death Stranding 5 years later. Like, all right, you
Right.
got it. You're enjoying it in 2024, but you should have had it in 2019 when it came out. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
That's why I think that's what TimDog and myself are saying. You don't want to be the console 5 years later, and now you realize why Death Stranding is great. Well, guess what? All you Xbox guys are enjoying Death Stranding. Now you see why PlayStation gamers enjoy PlayStation last gen. It's because of games like Death
100%.
Stranding. Now you're catching. Now you're starting seeing the bigger picture. You know.
Yeah.
K-Mac.
And what?
Go ahead.
No. I just exclusives really do matter. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that the thing that I talked about before, like the disingenuous takes, like guys, like 5 years ago, anybody who would say exclusives don't matter would be laughed off by 100% of the internet. But now you have, because of this, new, I guess, redefining of an Xbox fan, you have these people that say it doesn't matter. It does matter in the business world, and that's why Sony is doing what they do. They're getting more exclusives because they realize when a game's not being played on one other system, that people, and even with Grand Theft Auto, it's a big deal. PC gamers are not going to get that. Watch how much talk there is when that happens, even though it's going to happen. But exclusives sell consoles. There's nothing other than that. That's the truth of the matter. So.
Shout out to K-Mac. He says PSP2 needs to be seamless. A cut down version of the PS6 stock with the same memory, backwards C, 2 terabytes, 1080p, 60 FPS, OLED, $400. Just pick up any play. The only thing I'm nervous about that, K-Mac, is the requirement to play PS6 games. Because then, if you do that, you created your Xbox Series S scenario.
Yeah.
To me, the PSP handheld should be a gem behind the current console.
They might also go high price with it, just
like
higher,
$1,000, like a $1,200.
But
I mean, they could.
I
If they don't expect to sell a lot, Why not?
I don't think. Yeah, I don't think that they're expecting to saturate
Market
the
share.
market.
Okay.
I think that they just want to make some money, just like with Pro, like we talked about Pro. Yeah, they're
The
probably
Switch.
the majority of the the PlayStation guys are very happy with PlayStation 5 because it's awesome, but they're happy with their PlayStation 5 Pro sales. That's exactly what they went for the enthusiast and they got it. And that's why they charge what they charge. So if the people are enjoying it, then they're enjoying it. But
Hmm.
that's why they did it. So I think that could be the case with the
Hmm.
handheld, where with the PlayStation 6, you're gonna have a fully, probably 499, I think by then, but you're gonna really get something really good,
Yeah. Shout out to
powerful.
K Mac. Thank you for that super chat. And SNK Forever. He says, TimDog, want to hear a joke? Xbox is slightly
Yeah.
off PS. Yeah, these guys, stuff like that. And JD Gamer in the chat, he says, so then Halo on PS doesn't matter then, or Gears? I don't think JD gets it. I think, I don't know. JD Gamer, what we're trying to really explain at the heart is you are going to get to the point where one day you're going to wake up and Xbox are going to provide you a console. And you're just going to have to
And you
either
can say
choose,
why.
you're going to choose PlayStation, you're going to choose Nintendo, or you're going to choose PC, or you do cloud. But actual Xbox console, that world don't exist. Yet for PlayStation gamers, you're going to see the PlayStation 6, the 7, Switch 2, Switch 3, and then obviously PC
And
gamers, they'll have their PC. It's going to be you who's going to be left without a console, and then you're going to ask yourself, how did I get to this point? And this is what we're
and
trying to say to
also,
all of you. You're going to be
right.
left out of the loop.
And you're
Microsoft's
all
going to
gonna
be left.
and these guys that are left, they're gonna feel a certain kind of way when Halo gets announced. Trust me. It's when when it's not happening, it's one thing, but when it does happen and it's in front of your face and you see the PlayStation logo on Halo, I'm telling you, people are gonna feel a certain type of way.
Yeah.
And again, Xbox is going down that route. No red lines. Project Latitude or whatever the fuck it's called. But there you go.
This, JD Gamer, he says, to be clear, I believe exclusives matter. They're just not the whole story for everyone because value matters too. And so do features a la
Yeah.
Quick Resume. So I'm going to use your Quick Resume. Quick Resume is only as good as the console that exists to use it. And you're not going to have
Oh,
a console in the future. So there'll be no Quick Resume for you. That's the point we're trying to say. I'm telling you, Microsoft, they're not trying to get you to have another console. This
they don't care.
OEM is their
Console's a
way out.
bad word.
Yeah.
The console's a bad worded within Microsoft right
Yeah.
now.
And that's what we're saying.
I mean, saying
Hmm.
that your phone is an Xbox kind
It's
of really is
ridiculous.
disingenuous because there's some games, and trust me, I've done a lot of XCloud. There's some games that are just dog shit on a phone. Can't read it. The font's wrong. It's not made to be on a 6-inch screen. So it's like I don't know. I just find it really kind of stupid. Like the double downing on it. Like there was an article that Sarah is betting her career. It's
Hmm.
like okay,
You know. So K Mac in the chat says same memory, so no games will skip it like Xbox Series S. I'm just not confident. Um, I don't know because like if you say no PlayStation 6 game is gonna skip the handheld, then the handheld is the base. Like that's just how it works. Like we can't like forget what happened to Series S. So it's not about skipping the Series S or whatever. It's what is the baseline. And if Sony creates a handheld and it's supposed to get all PlayStation 6 game, then your PlayStation 6 is not the baseline. It's just not possible. Then handheld is the baseline. And then everything goes up. Because that's how it works. So that's why I want the PlayStation 6 console to be the baseline. You know what I'm saying? Now, some games might go on the handheld, like the indies and weaker games, PS5 cross gen games, that's fine. But if you want a PlayStation 6 console, we shouldn't be advocating for anything else other than PlayStation 6 console is the standard. If that 6 console is not the standard, that's not the baseline for PlayStation, we're gonna have problems. We're gonna have problems mixing up and down whatever with these devices. You gotta have a baseline, and that's what happened with Xbox. You got a Series X and a Series S, and Series X is supposed to be the baseline, but more people bought the Series S, And it's like, holy cow, like what do we do here? And that's why Xbox got into problems, man. You gotta have a baseline. You gotta
Yeah.
have this is the standard. This is the standard platform. So to me, all those that want a handheld, you in my opinion, by right of handheld, you're gonna get the lesser experience. You're gonna get the weaker graphics, you're gonna be 1080p, and you're not gonna get all the games that are able to run, you know? So there's gonna be a little bit of a sacrifice you have to make. But to expect that handheld to be just like the PS6, you're screwing over the PS6 in my opinion. Like it's just how it is. Unless you want a $2,000 handheld, that's about the only
Yeah.
other way that it could make it work. You know, you got a $600 PS6 and a $1,400 PSP2. Then maybe under those conditions. But are you willing to pay that much for a handheld to keep up with the PS6? I don't know. Maybe there is an audience. Um, Another super chat says, "You're hearing it first right here, Tim Dog, Co Eastwood." Oh man, now the clowning phase. But I know we've been here. I think we've been here more than an hour. I know it's like 5 o'clock in New York. Do you want to have some final words on anything of
No,
gaming or
I mean,
whatever?
just I mean, like I said, I don't want to think. I don't think people who say I'm grifting, I'm not. I just really kind of really feel this way, and to be honest, it's kind of like it's bittersweet because I mean I do like PlayStation and I think it's a great console, and I definitely missed out on a lot of things just because I was such a big Xbox guy, I wouldn't touch it. But I mean, I don't want Xbox to go away. I mean, it's just like sometimes you just got to be real about it, and I think anybody really legitimately looking at the situation, they've done really a bad job here. From communicating to telling you one thing, doing another, to just acting like, like really throwing things in your face, like the Indiana Jones at Summerfest, where they could have announced that at another place. I mean, I just don't think that they respect Xbox fans the way they, not all of them, but especially like the Sarah Bonds and the Phil, they just don't respect Xbox gamers the way they should be respected, and that's the thing. You gotta earn trust, and you gotta say what you mean and mean what you say, and they haven't done that. And their my criticism is completely warranted. And if you don't like it because you were one of those guys that loved me when I hyped it up, I'm sorry, man. It's just I got to be real about it. I'm not being popular. I'm not being very cheery about the Giants, my Giants team. I want everyone fired.
Yeah.
I want the ball
they
fired.
they don't know the pain we're going through right now, man.
You know what I mean?
You
But
know.
like even with the Knicks, when the
Yeah.
Knicks were bad, I wanted dudes fired.
Yes.
I will. So it's the same kind of case, but
Hmm.
I just think Xbox is just too far gone right now. They made a lot of decisions that
Hmm.
just have all caught up to them, and I mean, this gen started off like I can equate it to like a basketball game.
Hmm.
The first quarter, Xbox was like really competitive. They had a couple of dunks. They were up by 2 points or something, and then it was a tie, or they were slightly ahead of me. Not even slightly ahead because of the shortages, but they were like 2 points down. And then the second quarter, they got blown out by like 40 points. And
Hmm.
now it's like we're in that phase. It's over. So like I said, and you can always I'm a PSN Tim Dog on Sony. Send me a friend request, and know that I come from the heart. I'm not here to I'm not grifting for any kind of Twitter $5 every 2 weeks payment. You know what I mean? They don't. I'm not making no money here. This is just my honest opinion here.
Okay. All right. All right. Appreciate it, man. Hey, thank you so much for stopping through, man. It was a great way
Man, it
to
was a
end off
good
the year.
show.
Man, great show,
We
man. Thanks.
covered a lot.
Yeah, and thanks for the insight on, how you ended up, talking to these guys. I always wondered. I'm like,
Yeah.
man, how did that happen?
Yeah, it
it's
was cool. I have to admit it was cool, man.
mm,
And
well,
it was there was some people that were jealous and within the
of course, I could
community, but
imagine. What I'm
I mean,
saying.
but I really my heart was in a really good spot with them, and
Listen.
and I mean, it's just like I said, it went south. I mean, there's still people there that I'm still cool with,
Hmm.
and
I
still
mean,
want
they
to go
have to
out there.
understand though where you're coming from. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they
Um,
do. They
to
do.
to
I
finish off,
talked to.
I will say this. I thought this was weird, right? I'll say this. So you remember the ABK trials, and I don't want to extend your
Yeah,
time much, but I always want to say this.
sure.
So you know the ABK trials, right? It was happening what
Yeah.
2023,
2022, 23. Yeah.
23, right? So people were
Yeah.
watching the ABK trials. People were up like
This-
3 in the morning for the verdicts. They were
yeah.
covering it. You remember all that,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
what
Of
was
course.
weird, the community was looking at this ABK trial because if approved, you could potentially have what we thought might be some ABK exclusives. But the reality
Right.
was, while all this was happening, Sea of Thieves was being ported behind the scenes to
I
PlayStation.
know.
And I'm like, and I was thinking, like, yo, all the podcasts, all the Xbox influencers, even you, were
Yeah.
saying these stuff online, and Microsoft behind everybody's back was already making games for PlayStation. Like, games going to PlayStation was already in effect. And they
Yeah.
didn't warn nobody. Like, at least behind the
No.
scenes, they could have said, hey, yo, TimDog, listen, calm down
Right.
on the
Like.
whole ABK exclusives. And you might be like, why? Just, we known you for a long time. Please don't say nothing. But we don't want you to go out there and make promises that's not going to happen. And then you could have been
The.
like, so that way your name is not associated to this. That way, all right, at least I know you won't tell nobody, but at least you ain't making promises to the community that in the end didn't happen. You know?
Yeah.
But
100%. But
they
they
let
just switched.
everybody just run away with an assumption when they
Sneaky.
already made the decision to
Right.
put games on
Well, I
PlayStation.
think there was a lot
That's
of internal
crazy.
fighting. I
Yeah.
think there was a lot of internal fighting, and I don't know who was who, but Tim Stewart definitely was a guy that from the beginning.
He cracked the ice. Yeah, he cooked. Yeah, I think he was a big part of that because he's a finance guy.
Yeah, well, but he was always, even when they got the Bethesda, he was
Yeah,
way again, and they clowned him within Microsoft. So
yeah,
that's what's funny is they made fun of him. Like they said, "Oh, Tim, you learned about he really ruffled a lot of feathers with
yeah.
his statement." Like, so that was always being internally told. But Tim was always
But
like,
he was.
I don't
He,
think we have the what it takes. He was right, to be honest. But they would have been in a much better position if they took Tim's take. You know, they would have had a lot of fallout when the Bethesda was announced. Um, Exclusive. I mean, not exclusive.
mm-hmm,
But then again, the ABK could have been a much different deal, and
mm,
at this point, they would have probably it would just be Game Pass as your exclusive, as you once coined the phrase, which is very true, and that's what their whole thing is. Their exclusive is Game Pass, so they probably would have been better and more forthright than making all these promises and double downing and all the stuff that they did that they loved exclusives, and we're going to put Sony out of business, aka Matt Booty said that in an email. Like overpower them, but it didn't turn out that way. And Tim really did have the right insight um, all along. But his insight was grew to him being critical, I guess, of like when the numbers came out, and then from what I heard, like last year, finally got to Amy, and Amy went fucking bananas in January.
mm.
Basically, they looked too into the numbers, and they were like, "What are you doing here?" And then Phil got really. In my opinion, if I was Phil, I would have said, if you're gonna, because I kind of feel like he believes in exclusives, but he was just too overpowered. Even though he's the CEO, as weird as that is, but that's the dynamic at Microsoft. I would have just said, you know what? I'm retiring. I'm not signing on with this plan. It's going nowhere. And I think from his heart of hearts, he probably believes that this plan's not going to work. But you got to toe the company line. So I don't know. I just, for me and my dignity, I would just be like, nah, I'm gone. I'm out of here. And yeah, it would have been really jolting, but at least he could go down with somewhat, in my opinion, of a positive image. I don't think his image is right now publicly is. I mean, you had a guy on the Game Awards make fun of Phil and the picture.
Oh man.
That thing got $100,000, 100,000 likes.
It
That's
trended.
that's not good, man.
The
Like
news is getting out.
trended.
It's getting out.
Yeah.
It's getting out.
So,
It,
but thank you for having me. Merry
mhm.
Christmas to everyone. Happy New Year. Um, and let's just have a good one. Game
All right.
on.
All right, brother. Thank you so
All
much
right,
for coming
brother.
through. All
Thank
right,
you.
man. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Tim Dog, the man, the
You
myth,
the man.
the legend. All right. All right, chat. Hey guys, I'm glad you guys enjoyed the show and stuff. And we're gonna sign out of here. Hit the like button, share this out. As and I hope you guys, if I don't talk to you guys again, if I don't drop another video, I just want to say Happy New Year to everybody. Be safe. No podcast next week because I will be in Vegas. Um, gonna enjoy bringing the new year out in Vegas. Me and the wife. So there'll be no podcast next week, but the week after we're gonna kick it off with 60 frames no lag. But I'm glad I had Tim Dog here. So you guys take care. Be safe. Happy holidays. Happy New Year's. And at a minimum, I'll see you guys next year. You guys take care. Your only friend is YouTube Streets, Puertorock77. And we are out of here. And I'm going to end off with this. Go Knicks. Take care. Peace.